Welcome to episode 11 of the Fresh Perspective. I'm here with T, a good friend of mine, Joey in the ones and twos. T, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
All right.
A lot to get to today. We set out with the self-destructive intent of being as controversial but informative and logical as possible.
Yeah.
We're trying to maintain that balance. So we'll get to a lot of stuff today. But first and foremost, for people who don't know you, maybe introduce yourself, give you a little bit of background. I know that's probably might take the whole show. You've had quite the life of a Renaissance man, but maybe tell people who you are.
All right. My name's T. On Instagram, I'm at T Augurson. People call me Augurson, and that's not it. It's not my whole name. But a little about me. Really, I like to grow businesses is really what it is. I started off in the military, got out the military, had a couple of jobs, and then was fail enough to learn how to grow some businesses. And now I run several organizations, and they're doing great, and I'm just looking to grow more. But along the journey, I've learned a lot. So
business is failing.
Yes.
I saw you post that. I think that might have been today or yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
And I like that. It's the truth.
It is. I've never heard anybody like start a business and then it's just bam, it works and it's great and you make money right away. Like that's not part of the process at all.
No, but basically what I broke it down to is being the boss of a company is basically you get paid to handle unexpected problems.
Exactly.
That's all business is.
Yep.
And then experience is having seen enough of those unexpected problems to know what happens when they come up.
Exactly. And then try to prevent those problems from happening because you know it's probably going to happen.
Exactly.
Yep, that's it.
Maybe we can start there though, because it's interesting. You was the Air Force, right?
Yes, I was in Air Force for 15 years.
15 years.
15 years, yeah.
What was that like?
You know what? First, I joined at 17. So people start doing math. You say 15 years, you figure out how old you are. But it was the greatest thing
you had
ever.
to be 18.
Well, your parents can sign a waiver if you're 17.
Wow.
But I graduated high school at 17. I graduated early. So that's why they did that. But no, the military was great. Like, it's weird. Like some countries they have where you have to join the military.
Israel.
Like a certain amount of years. I think America needs that. Those, just a couple years in the military, you learn a skill. You learn a little bit of discipline. You make great friends. I got to travel the world. They paid for most of my education. Like, absolutely loved the military. It's like college on steroids, if you will, except you got, a full-time job, you're getting paid. I lived in a dormitory. I went to school.
What years was this?
95 to...
So luckily also you missed any kind of, we weren't in any major conflicts at least.
I was not in major conflicts, minor conflicts.
You were?
Yeah, so stuff, there's always some conflict going on. So I got
were you a pilot? Like a fighter pilot? Like what was
what's funny? Everybody's like Air Force, you're pilot, Navy, you're
I'm thinking like Top Gun.
Yeah. So I wasn't a pilot. I actually had a boring communications job.
Okay.
Where I was
Intel stuff.
Not Intel. I did that later in my career. I was the guy that I equated to the 911 operator for the military. So like say some crazy conflict happened and you got to talk to the boss. I was the guy that connected the information to the boss and I was with the boss all the time.
Interesting.
So that was my job to start off. Then I got into IT. And then I was a communications officer. So basically I did IT projects and things like that.
Within the Air Force?
Within the Air Force. The coolest thing I did was I managed crews, so air crews. So I wasn't the pilot, but I flew on the planes with the crews and I helped manage the crews. And then also some of the IT on the plane, we helped manage that.
What kind of planes?
C5, C-17, C-130.
Those the big ones?
Those are the big ones, yeah. Not like any cool fighter planes. They were all like cargo planes.
Did you ever have to ride in one of the fighter planes though?
I did not. I got to sit in it, but I never got to actually ride in one. But I rode in all the other stuff.
That's like a bucket list item of mine I'd like to try. I can feel the G's and really like
pull some shit. Pull it. Yeah. Some friends have done it, and it's the most amazing thing ever.
I'm sure. I mean, we both like driving
right.
rapid speed, so I'm sure that's just like the ultimate version of it.
Right. I think the coolest thing I saw on the plane was we did Christmas drops where we dropped food to places that didn't really have infrastructure and things. So to see them pushing pallets out the back of the plane
with just a big
and
parachute.
the big parachute falling, it's crazy because it lands in that area, and then like people grab the food off there because they like in places where.
What parts of the world did you do that in?
Middle East and then also in the Polynesian islands, believe it or not. There's a lot of small islands that don't have the infrastructure for planes to land, and they're doing their own thing, and they rely on the U.S. to actually supply them.
Here's some rice, or whatever it is.
Pretty much, yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it was fun. A great, awesome experience. Without that military experience, there was no way I'd be where I am today.
So you went from there, from right out of high school to your early 30s. Your whole life was pretty much, your whole adult life at that point is strictly military.
Strictly military. But the one thing I did different was I always had a job outside the military.
How does that work? So like, were you on a base the whole time or where?
Right. So I started
Maryland?
in Tucson, Arizona.
Arizona.
Davis Mountain Air Force Base.
Okay.
So that's where I started. And then you move around. So I spent some time there. I was in Guam.
But you live on the base?
When you first come in, yes, you live on the base. So that's what I did. I lived on the base in a dorm. Like, it looked like a dorm.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of, 18 to 23-year-olds, roommates, whole nine.
Getting in trouble.
Pretty much. Yeah, yeah. But everybody had a job, like really important jobs.
Yeah.
But we were young and we lived in a dorm. And then you get a little older, you get married, you move off, and then you have a house, and then you're just regular.
And then you report to the base like a regular job.
Yeah, you just go to work.
Interesting.
Yeah. Only thing that's different between the military and I say civilian life is the military is concerned with what you do in your personal life. So like if you bounce a check, you can get fired. Or
really?
You cheat on your wife, you can get fired. Or
really
anything you do in your personal life, they can fire you for it, because their whole mentality is, it's real simple actually, is like, if I can't trust you to do the right thing in your personal life, I can't trust you to carry this gun or fly this plane or be responsible for people's lives because you can't handle your business at home.
Makes sense.
Because you got to think, lives are at stake when you screw up at your job.
The country is at stake.
Right. Or you might go to war because I have some stories about that, but you might go to war because you screwed up. You know what I'm saying? There's some crazy stuff like that.
Please do tell.
Oh, well.
You can't bait me with that.
No, right. We didn't go to war, though. I'll tell you, people know me. I'm late. I'm like supremely late for everything. I do my damnedest to be on time.
You were good today. You were on time today.
I really tried. I do try all the time. But in short, I was in Arizona, and we have exercises where you pretend to go to war. For whatever reason, someone thought it was a great idea to, we work 12-hour shifts. So I had to be there 2 hours before the 12-hour shift. And it was a lot of things moving. Basically, I had to open up shop, and then we pretend war. But when we pretended war with people in different countries. So they were relying on this 20-year-old guy to come to work on time, open up everything, and get things going. And then everybody comes in, and then we do this exercise where we pretend to be at war. I mean, when I say pretend, planes actually fly. Like, things are happening for real.
Wow.
So I was late. And for whatever reason, the guy with the backup key had left his key at work. So somebody had to come and get me because I was late, and I had to show up there, and it threw off everybody. It was like 600 people in like 3 different countries. It was a whole mess. It was a thing.
So
and they were
pissed. The war.
Right. They were pissed because if we were at war, people would have died because you were late.
Yeah.
It's like we're literally pretending to go to war, and you're asleep.
You can't be late for war.
You can't be late for war.
It
You
doesn't work.
can't. So yeah. But yeah, almost.
See, where you at? Half the country's bombed.
I know, right? Like, my bad, I was asleep. Late night.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So 32, what makes you leave? Because that's another thing too. I always wonder is like, is it just a personal decision when people come back for tours? Is it a career thing? Because you have a career within the military, you have a career outside the military. Is it most people calculation of just, are they doing better outside the military than in?
No. So when you're in the military, you sign a contract.
Okay.
So when your contract's time to renew, that's when you kind of have to make a decision. I'm going to stay. I'm going to go.
How long are those contracts?
4 to 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So every 4 to 6 years, you're in. So, and then they can send you wherever, they can move you wherever, they can do whatever they want. You really don't have a choice. They say you have a choice. They'll say, for example, pick 3 places you want to live. And they're like, okay, Florida, Texas, California. You're going to North Dakota, and that's it. Like, and you're moving, your whole family goes to North Dakota. That's it, because they got you for 4 years. And
now, what happens in that contract if you just say no?
You go to jail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Wow. That's like a dishonorable whatever.
Yeah, well, you get a dishonorable discharge, and they can throw you in jail.
Wow.
And they do that. They actually, you go AWOL, absent without leave, and they'll throw your ass in jail.
That's what AWOL means?
Yeah, absent without leave.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So you're 32. What made you, at that point, decide I want out of the military?
It was a simple math equation. So basically, you're in the military, they have a pay chart. You go from E1 to O10. And it's public. It's like, they have to publicly say how much you make, okay? So I looked at it, and at the time, I was a O3. And I was like, oh, okay, this is the max I can make by staying in. And I got a job offer. And that job offer was paying me almost 3 times what I was making. So I'm like, I can stay for 5 years and retire, or I can, end my commitment when it comes up in the next couple of months and go take this job making 3 times as much as I'm making today.
Yeah.
To me, it was really a simple equation.
100%.
And it's crazy. Every single person in the military, my mentors, my father, friends, everyone was like, that's the most stupid decision you can ever make. Because they're like, in 5 years, you can retire from the military.
And then do something.
And after you retire, you're going to get a paycheck for the rest of your life. And you get medical pay for the rest of your life. But I'm like, I believe in me. So in 5 years, with 3 times the money,
yeah.
Do you know what I can do with 3 times the money in 5 years?
100%.
Like, yeah.
So that's the weird thing I think that a lot of people don't anticipate when it comes to being an entrepreneur. It's something that happens. It's a super heavy weight on your shoulders when people do that to you, but it's not evil. They're doing it out of your best interest. In their mind, they're saying do the safe thing, which is what you'd expect out of people that care about you.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you believe in yourself, you got to bet on yourself.
Right.
And that means taking the riskier route. Mm-hmm. But, no risk, no reward.
Yeah, yeah. But now look back.
It's easy to say now you were right.
It was like, but I'm not going to lie. It was hard. At the time, it was hard.
Yeah.
But you know what? I tell people, it wasn't that hard. I literally had 3 times the money in my pocket. So, I mean, like, it wasn't like that hard. Like, you know what I'm saying?
What was that? It was that, was you working on your own at that point?
No, I was working at a company.
And you were going into Intel at that point, or like IT? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did IT. Yep, I did IT. I did sales, did IT, and I still sold to the government, but I just did it on the outside versus actually.
And then eventually you started your own IT company.
And eventually I started my own IT company. Yeah.
So explain to people, because me included, I am technically deficient. I don't know what we can put it. I have no idea about any of that kind of stuff. I mean, I can handle my cell phone on the computer, but as far as IT goes, it's like Chinese to me. Mm-hmm. So what exactly do you do? 'Cause I know you do something with cybersecurity also, right?
Right. So we do cybersecurity. That's the realm of IT that we fall in. But we do things a little bit different. We're more personal cybersecurity. Okay. So my thing is, the closest competitor I have are either brand management companies that actually manage a brand, or like LifeLock, where they actually monitor and tell you if your information.
Someone opened a credit card or someone did this.
Right. But what we do that's different is it's like we remove your information from the internet. So our logic is like breaking in your house. You have an alarm system that breaks in your house. If someone's breaking in your house, it goes off. Yeah. And then you're like, hey, someone's breaking into my house. My whole thing is like, well, if you didn't have something to steal,
the house is empty.
The house is empty. Then nobody's gonna rob you. So that's what we do. We remove your information, because if your information is not there, they can't steal your identity.
Interesting. So is that something that has to be constantly monitored and refreshed, more or less?
Mm-hmm. This is because people can't get off the internet. So
they're constantly getting cookied and all that stuff. Constantly signing up for things.
Yeah. And then companies are constantly getting hacked and not telling you.
Yeah.
So it's like Facebook got hacked in 2019.
Like 500 million people or something, right?
Yeah, but it didn't come out till a month ago. So they didn't tell anybody
that should be illegal. That should be illegal.
Yeah. So yeah, but what we do is, I knew Facebook was hacked when it got hacked. Like, I'll give you something else. Did you know? And it's not even totally public knowledge. Did you know and I'm going to say it the right way because people take it and run with it. Did you know that the results of the election were hacked?
The results of the election were hacked.
Right. And let me define it.
Okay, yeah. I'm probably ready to start.
Because people can run left with it. So, didn't have anything to do with the actual election results. But someone was able to hack and figure out how everybody voted.
Like by name?
Right. So now they got your name, social security number, date of birth, and all that pertinent information. Because you need that information to register to vote, right? So I
don't know. Apparently they give out registration to vote is pretty easy nowadays.
Right. Well, they hacked the results, so they were able to see not only who you voted for, but they got all your data.
Did they hack Dominion and the voting machines, or they hacked like the government institutions that hold the data? Like who did they hack?
It was a couple of entities that they hacked, but they didn't hack the machines. Okay. It wasn't the machine, because the machine doesn't store really the data. The machine's just a machine. Yeah. It's like hacking your phone.
But there was some weird shit going on. Yeah. I might be already getting banned 10 minutes in. But, but like, when it was going on, like, I don't know anything. And people who say with definitive, like to say it definitively, like it was 100% hacked, or was 100% cheated, or 100% it was good. Yeah. You don't really know. None of us really know that answer. Like if I had a bet, I bet the results were the results. You know what I mean? I would have to think that, Biden got more votes at the end of the day, right? Yep. Was there cheating? I mean, I saw a lot of shit with my own eyes when I'm watching videotapes and stuff where it's like, well, that doesn't look kosher. You know what
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
but
Yep.
even more than like hiding ballots under a table, the real thing that happened was, coming up, they used COVID to push, something that they know was going to favor them.
Right.
It's all a power game.
Yep, it's all
so
power game.
Democrats used the COVID cover to push mail-in voting,
Right.
not because they care about access to voting, because they know it's going to benefit them.
Right.
I think a lot of things that happen in that arena get mistaken for like evil, nefarious, like, Rothschild conspiracies, when it's really just as simple as power and money.
Right.
Like,
They're just trying to win.
Yeah.
All they're doing is trying to win.
But the problem that I have most of the time comes when both sides use a moral argument to justify their bullshit reasoning when really it's just about power and money. So like, for example, the voting, like, do you really think that Democrats are so concerned about people being able to vote and voter suppression, or do they just know that those rules are going to get them more votes, and vice versa? You think Republicans are that, it just, at the end of the day, they want more votes.
Right.
They'll do anything to get more votes, but that keeps their power.
But to play devil's advocate, can you blame them though?
No, that's the
my
game.
thing is, like,
That's the game.
If people fall into it,
that's the game.
That-
But just
it's
don't
like,
make the
yeah.
moral argument. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
don't pretend it's like, especially because, so we'll hop right into it. It's a good segue right there. Like, I need someone to explain to me something. And from what I see, there's dual straw man arguments being put up right now. So what's going on with Georgia and this whole voting thing, and they're boycotting Georgia because of the voter laws they're trying to make.
Right.
And both sides, in my opinion, from what I know, are making straw man arguments about what the other person is fighting for. So if you look at any kind of a left-leaning media outlet, they'll say, Republicans are doing Jim Crow 2.0. They won't even let you give water to people online. They're trying to suppress minority votes. And if you watch the right-leaning media, they'll say Democrats don't even want IDs to people so they can cheat.
Right.
And it's like, neither of those are actually in what's being proposed.
Exactly.
The water thing is like the most extreme example of them just saying political operatives can't give gifts to people while they're online to vote.
Right.
Which is fair.
Yeah,
like
fair.
you can't just say, here's $10, like with a Biden shirt on or a Trump side
Right.
shirt on. And the water just the most extreme example of that.
Right.
And the voting, it's not like they're saying, at least most people aren't saying you can show up and no one has to know who you are to vote. They don't want certain parameters on. They want mail-in voting to be expanded because it helps them.
Right.
But I haven't actually seen anybody make a logical argument for this voter ID thing. And I've seen a lot of people calling it racist. Maybe you can help me out.
Well,
what is racist about voter ID? How do you spin that without actually being the racist one to say that requesting voter ID is racist?
Well, but let me.
Most people aren't making that argument.
Right.
It's a straw man. But
Right.
some people are, and I'm very confused.
No, but some people are. But it goes back to your original argument with the water. It's like it's really not a thing per se, except they know that it's going to touch on your moral straw, if you will, and they're going to pull on and they're going to tug on that.
Yeah.
Because
Those poor people, they're probably sweating, they're getting dehydrated. Give them water.
Right. It goes back to, because, you draw the line of racism because what demographic doesn't have the ID? And that demographic tends to vote what? It's just like with the mail-in voting.
But I don't understand it. But is that true?
It is true. I've looked that up. It's true.
But why? And wouldn't a more pertinent thing be to fix that problem? Because like if you don't have an ID, you can't have a bank account.
Right.
You can't go buy a pack of cigarettes. You can't do most of these things in our society. Like, why aren't we fixing that problem?
But that's not true.
What's not true?
Without an ID, you can't do most things in society.
You can't go to the bank.
I know people without an ID that put their kids in school.
We can't go to the bank.
You can't go now, or before you couldn't go to the bank, but now that everything's online, you just type whatever in. And
you can't open a bank account without an ID.
Is Cash App a bank account?
No.
Or Venmo?
But shouldn't we?
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. I see
Because my thing is, I know people that operate without an ID.
Drive.
I know they operate. So in some states, going to get a driver's license, for example, it's like it blows my mind. I think it's California, and you have to fact check me on that. But California, you can get a driver's license without ID, and it's like,
well, how the fuck they know who you are?
How do you know who you are? You know what I'm saying? And then now you have an ID, and there's a lot of things operating when there's no ID. But you going back to the original question is, most the people without IDs operating in the country
tend to be minorities,
and those minorities.
But why? Why does that correlate? Is it an income thing, or is it an access thing? Is it like geographical?
I think when you say the minority, got to break it up. Like First, I think it's
Well, they're saying mostly black. Every argument
Okay.
I've seen is about the African American vote.
right, okay. Well, I was gonna break it into black and then more of the immigrant population because
Well, immigrant I understand.
okay.
Because
So you want to focus there?
yeah,
Okay.
well,
yeah.
immigrant I understand. Immigrant part I understand. If you're coming from a country where identification maybe isn't so, like, I don't know if some of these countries in Central America, they don't all get paperwork like we do.
Right.
You know, so that I understand how there could be a fall off there, but those people aren't supposed to be voting anyway,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Technically,
Technically.
if
Yeah.
they ever decide the way, they'll change that.
Right.
It's not because they care about those people; it's because they know who they're voting for.
Right.
But now, as far as the African American community, what is it about that community in particular that makes it so they're not getting IDs? I don't understand, because like I watched a very interesting street interview guy. He walks around. It's escaping me right now what his name is, but he walked around like Columbia University in Manhattan, and he has to know like these preppy white girls that were going to school there, like, are voter IDs racist? And they're like, yeah, this is, well, they can't, white people don't have access to, and in my opinion, was saying like the soft bigotry, low expectations, like making comments that I'm like, what you're saying is racist. I don't know anybody personally who doesn't have an ID. And then they went to Harlem, like a few blocks away, but interviewing people on the street, and they were like, do you have ID? They're like, yeah. Like, you know anybody with that ID? And they're like, no. And like, well, and they played the tapes of them saying, well, they can't get it. They don't have access. And I'm like, what do they think of us? Like, how can they say that? We all have ID. What are you talking about?
Right.
So I'm just confused as to like who it actually affects. Is it someone that can't get the transportation to get to the DMV? Is it someone that can't afford the ID? What exactly limits someone from getting access?
I think it's not the point of focus on African American people. I shouldn't say people. I hate generic terms, but that subset of people that we're talking about, that people think they don't have IDs.
But they're making that argument on that.
I don't think that that's a valid argument.
Me neither.
I think
but
that,
how do you even justify
but
it?
my thing is, it goes back to measuring. If you kind of looked at it in terms of who has the ID and who doesn't, you would have this population. 99% of people in this population have ID. Then you have the African American community and say
85 or 90.
Yeah, like 89% have ID. They're really, it's a really small portion. It's not like there's this large portion of the African American community that doesn't have IDs. It's a really small portion for various reasons.
But what is that reason? I'm genuinely don't understand like why that would be and why we aren't focused on fixing that.
Right.
I'm not saying you can't exist without it, but like why not help those people get the ID even for their own benefit of their own life? Like
it's a lot of things
make
like,
it easier for people.
Because like, I'm from the South of Louisiana. And I know people that just don't have ID. They had it once before and expired. They don't need it. They need it.
But that's a choice at that point.
But that's a choice.
Yeah.
But again, it's not like that they can't get it. I don't think that's a valid argument to say people can't get the ID.
I'm just, for the life of me, I want someone who believes that wholeheartedly is a valid argument to explain to me why, and explain to me.
Yeah, I don't think they're saying that you can't. Like,
then explain to me part two would be, how can it ever be used for more than one election, right? Like, you can make that argument this election. Let's just say it makes sense in your head. We'll give it to you. You have 4 years. If voting means that much to you, you have 4 years to figure it out for the next one.
Well, come on, they're not about fixing the problems. I mean, that's
true.
I mean, that they're not gonna, they're gonna complain about it because they can ride it out till, you know what I'm saying?
It benefits them to talk about it.
It benefits them, yeah.
All right, agree with that 100%. I'm hoping that someone could shed some light on me, because even if I don't agree with it, I just want to understand the logic behind it. And for the life of me, I can't get anybody to explain to me how that makes sense.
Yeah, I can't get you on that one. That's because it's not, like I said, for the reasons that I know that people don't have IDs. And again, from my travels and things like that, it's not because they can't get it.
Hey, mostly it's choice.
Right. It's not, it's for whatever
it's not important
reason.
to them.
Right,
for whatever reason.
Right. It's like for whatever reason. It's not like, oh, I can't go get an ID.
Which wouldn't make it discrimination at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's what they do. They just kind of roll everything all in there. And...
I always, like me and you have had discussions privately before about just how you only have your perspective, right? You can be as versed as you want to be. You can meet as many people as you want to meet. That's, in my opinion, one of the best parts about life. The more people you meet, you broaden your horizons. Right. You know what I mean? You get introduced to different perspectives, and you can kind of adopt part of it to broaden your own and make your own collective of ideas. Right. So I always hold in reserve the fact that, like, I always say, you've been wrong before. Never underestimate how wrong you could be again. Right. So, like, I always reserve, like, okay, you could be missing something, so keep an open mind. Right. But I'm rattling my brain trying to figure that one out. No, and then I don't think
that's it's a valid. I think they just use it, just like
the example
with the water.
Isms to it, and
and they roll it out.
It becomes a club.
Yeah, and then you got to remember who they're pandering, if you will, to, because it's like, on the right wing side, they're listening to the right wing sources, so they're gonna say the most extreme thing. Same thing on the other side, they say the most extreme thing, and that's what you kind of listen to, like, oh, that's what they're saying. That's crazy, because no one switches the channel. and listen to the other side if it makes sense.
And those extreme views are usually only held by a small percentage of each side, and they just have the loudest mouths.
Exactly.
And their things are the most sensational, so they get heard.
Yeah,
it's a big problem right now. I think that the division that we have right now is we're more divided than I don't even know any time in my lifetime for sure. And it seems like in a time like 2021, we should be close. Like we're all so interconnected now.
Yeah.
That it's surprising that we couldn't be further apart.
But I don't think, you know what? I've always debated this. People say we're the most divided we've been. I don't think that's true.
My lifetime.
And you're like, well, we'll stay within our lifetime.
I can't say maybe. I don't know. I wasn't here for the 60s. I'm sure.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I think that now isn't the most. I think now is the time where I think we're closer. The reason I think we're closer, the divide is from ignorance.
1000%.
That's where the divide is.
Ignorance of perspective.
And ignorance of perspective. But in reality, we're all closer than we think. We all have the same values. We all hold majority of the issues.
Yeah, we're arguing over the 2%.
Right. But that 2% makes us polar. And that's what I'm saying. I think when you have conversation with people, it's like, oh wow, like, you know what? I agree.
Well, conversation's a lost art. Well, so do you think that, so to your point, would you say that then, because my only thing that I can really rationalize is by saying that we've always had these differences of opinion. You just never got to see them, right? You'd only be able to see the opinion of the people that were immediately around you.
Right.
But now with the social media age that we're in, you know what everybody's thinking at all times, and they're broadcasting it to the entire fucking world. So like back in maybe the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, you know, you watch a basketball game, you see him play basketball. You don't get to hear his opinion on politics after, when he goes home at night and goes and tweets it.
Right.
So like you just loved fucking Charles Barkley or whatever, Don Mattingly, whatever professional player in the 90s was, and you didn't have to think about what they thought of everything else. Now it's become so tribal, and you get access to their thoughts so much that maybe that's causing the divide. It's not as divided. It's not more divided, just you get to see it.
Well, I think that goes back to your point when you're saying this is the most divided we are in our time. It's because we see things.
Yeah.
I think we're close. I think we had the same sight, if you will, that we had, now that, back in the day, if you will. They'd be like, oh man, they were really divided back then. We're closer now. Because I think people in America, it's like, well, I'll even go as far as say people in the world can't focus on too many things at once. It's like you got three things. I think people can only focus on three things at one time. Two things, that's whatever's trending. And then the third thing is kind of what's important to you that you kind of always focus on. And it rotates. Like, whatever's happening in the world, that's what everybody's talking about.
Like the news topic of the day.
Yeah, the news topic of the day. And they control that. And it's like, well, what about that topic you were talking about a year ago that you were so passionate about?
Now it's like last week.
Right. And it's like
everybody cares about the same thing at the same time.
Right. I'm like,
how fake could it be?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like 2 weeks ago, Seaspiracy. You see that documentary yet?
I didn't see that.
It's a great documentary.
Okay.
In all transparency, I haven't fact checked it,
which
is very important because you watch some documentaries on Netflix and then you walk out, you're like, I can't even look at animal ever again. I can't touch plastic.
Yeah.
But like, then you go and research it, and they can kind of skew stats. They can do, it's the same as the media. Like you gotta really double check everything. I tell people whenever you hear a story, like on the news, you can't take it for on face value. Pretend like it's gossip.
Yeah.
Go hear the other side's story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like going to talk to someone's ex and you think you're gonna get a fair opinion about them.
Right.
You're not gonna get a fair
That's my
shake.
number one pet peeve about society. And it's funny because I could use it also in business because, society as a whole, you believe whatever they say. I mean, they believe anything. It's like the ignorance level is, bam, critical thinking is like a lost art. We got the most powerful tools with all the knowledge in the world, and no one looks up anything. No one goes past page 1 on Google. Like
page 1, no go past the headline.
Yeah, it's like it's like 4 ads, some information, and it's not on Google. And I'm like, there's like really 30,000 results for whatever you search for. That ignorance though is just like, it blows my mind. But on the flip side, it makes me like a genius because people are like, oh, T, you're so smart. You're a doctor. I'm like, no, I just read.
And
I thought about it and I put it together and I made it make sense.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
But that people don't think.
At all.
Because it's much easier to be told than to think.
Right.
Right? You read you're scroll. People's attention span is now seconds long. You're scrolling, and I mean, I'm not telling to be above it. I do it. I get caught in the same thing. You're scrolling, right? Your thumb swiping, and it's a fucking collage. Hot girl, car, fucking house, news article. Oh my god, that happened. Wow. And you keep scrolling. And you don't even actually analyze what they said or think about it or double check it. It's just this happened, and now it becomes fact.
Yep. And it comes back. Yeah.
And now millions of people feel the same way. And now things get built upon that fact, quote air quotes, if you're just listening, and you haven't even verified to make sure that was true.
Right.
And now you go and repost it.
Right.
With your caption and your 2 cents, and then that gets seen by somebody, and they don't look at it. And this thing has a butterfly effect that ripples through. Forget about it.
Right.
And it seems like everything that happens goes down that route. And if everybody took a second to breathe and analyze and double check everything first, most of these heated hot button topics would never blow up, because most of them have a logical explanation that's somewhere in the middle of the 2 polar opposite media point of views that they're spewing out there. And it's part of the reason why media is so dangerous, because most people don't have the time.
Right.
You know, or they either don't have the time or don't care to take the time to look into something. So their power, we're trusting them to do the research for us and give us an honest, objective opinion. They're not.
Right.
So that's really, really dangerous.
So does that fall in, I always question this, does that fall in laziness or ignorance?
From the consumer?
Yeah.
Both. I would say definitely both, or a combination and or both. You know what I mean? It's laziness or ignorance. Yeah, I like that. Laziness becomes ignorance. The laziness into actually putting critical thinking and a little bit of time into researching what you're so passionate about or pretending to be so passionate about breeds an ignorant viewpoint on what's going on, because you actually have no concept of what's happening. You've never thought it through. And that's the importance of having people that challenge your ideas, because if you're in an echo chamber and constantly you're just being told, all you have to do is shout a slogan, a hot, slow slogan everyone's saying, and you get cheers for it, but you've never actually thought it through, that becomes a problem very quickly.
So it's funny because, like, I always, when I look at where we are with social media and then media and the media in general today, I always like try to categorize it. People just lazy and they're just not looking stuff up, or people really that ignorant?
It's both.
Or where does it flow? But then it kind of, I'm a critical thinker, if you will. It kind of perpetuates into everything you do. Like, we talk about religion. I'm like, we follow this religious text. Did anybody like fact check that? Or did we just gonna roll with that? Like, is it because you're lazy and ignorant, or lazy, or is it because you're just ignorant and it's like stuff that doesn't make sense? It's like it pisses me off. It blows my mind.
It's so funny when people accept this fact, right? So it's like you'll have a hardcore right-wing conservatives that won't believe a fucking headline that CNN wrote about a fucking event happened yesterday, but they believe the scripts that were translated 8 times and written in the desert by illiterate people on animal skins 2,000 years ago, like it never could be questioned again.
Right.
It's like, don't you understand now, like through your own personal experience, that things can be kind of like the game of telephones to stray away from their original context,
even when it doesn't make sense. It's like, so
Noah's Ark. Let me see about this.
I'm like, and I'll preface it with, I am a religious person. My dad's a pastor. I believe, that there is a higher being.
Same.
Got it. But some of that stuff in the book, I'd be like, like who? Because
are we sure about that?
I'm like, so you tell me, so who wrote this? So this guy wrote this. Oh, so he wrote. So 2 people wrote the same thing, but it's a little bit different.
Who is that guy?
Who is that guy?
Who the fuck is he?
Like so. Okay, we're just gonna believe what this guy wrote. Okay, it's like, okay, let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about what it says. I'm like, but I want to know who wrote it. Like,
it was the author is a little bit important, right? We're gonna run our entire lives based on this book,
right? I'm like, exactly. I live my whole life based on this book, and
we're going to war over this book. Did we fact check it?
Yeah, it's like, okay, but I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
So you had a post the other day that we were just cracking up before all affair, where you were talking about Easter, and you had a long, hilarious rant about Easter and how you believe that it should be a party. We should go out and drink and smoke and have a good time, because more or less that's what the story was about. Jesus was on the way to a party.
He was going to a party.
So explain to people what the story was. Okay, you know better than me.
Yeah. So basically, people don't. Well, I get this with any religious holiday. I like to understand why. Like simple things. Easter. Why is there a freaking Easter bunny? Nobody ever think like. I guarantee majority of people listening do not understand the correlation between Easter and a bunny that lays eggs.
I didn't know until you took your video.
And I'm like, but we get our kids Easter eggs and
nobody thinks about it.
And nobody thinks about it. I'm like, bunnies don't lay, like, what are we doing?
Rabbits don't lay eggs.
Right. And I'm just like, we gonna rock this out?
Like, I never even thought about it. And I consider myself a decently intelligent person.
Right.
I never even thought about it until you said it. And because I'm just as blind into just following what you know as anybody else.
And I'm like, why do kids get gifts? Somebody died. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. It just pisses me off because no one thinks about it.
So explain that Easter story, please.
So anyway, basically, people need to understand that Easter is when is all. Well, let me back up. What people know, Easter is when Jesus died and he rose from the dead. That's Easter. Like, you know, we got like, this is great. He died for our sins.
Shaky premise.
You know, like that's what he did. But I'm like, so great. Being that said, we'll say that's true. We'll grant that. But like, what was really going on? Like, you know, and I'm like, you know, I'm a simple-minded person. I'm like, if my homeboy died, if you die, you come back from the dead, damn, we have a party.
Turn up.
Like you're back. Like, what do you do? Like, you know, what do you be like? You know, you get dressed up and no, we're gonna party. We're drinking. So I looked it up, and basically, it's funny because Easter. First of all, it's not called Easter. It's called Passover in the Bible. So the Bible never says Easter. So I'm like, we're already off to a start because it doesn't say call it Easter. It's called Passover. So I'm like, well,
the Jewish holiday.
Right. So why are we calling it Easter? Well, it's because back in the day, they were like, hey, you know what? We're going to reappropriate all the holidays. So the non-believers or the pagans, if you will, they had their own thing. Their holidays are always surrounded like the seasons and things of that nature. Their gods that they believed in were like gods of the weather and fertility and all these different things.
This is during like the Crusades period.
Right, in the Crusades period. Which, mind you, happened after the whole Jesus thing. Yeah. So we're already deep into the translation of this book by the end.
And now the Christians are going to different parts of the world and trying to convert people they come across to Christianity.
Right.
And
exactly.
People they're running into are pagans.
Right. But they call them pagans. Pagans are just non-believers. That's it. It's not, because I hate people say pagans, like, oh, it's a bigger pagan. No, I just don't believe in what you believe in. Like,
I didn't know that. So pagan is not an actual set structure religion, it's just agnostic, like, or
yeah, it's like,
or is it atheist?
No, pagan just means you just don't believe in God.
Okay, I didn't know
that. So
the
pagans believed in the god of spring, not your God.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why they're pagans. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the pagans had a holiday during spring, which is when, you know, Easter is, if you will. Mm-hmm. And they called it Ostera, if you will. And then the
God, right? Something
yes, god of Ostera was the god of fertility. And they said, okay, we're going to start calling ours Ostera, which eventually translated into Easter, because that was a translation of the German word. And they called it Easter because they were just trying to make the non-believers believe that they were celebrating a religious holiday.
So it was just a marketing campaign for Christianity.
It was a marketing campaign of Christianity.
Now, fertility, was that had to do with like crops? Because usually a lot of
that's
farming.
Like blooming spring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it had to do with like the plants coming to season, probably.
So in the story, Ostera, in her godly abilities, turned a bird into a bunny. And the bunny laid eggs. So Christians was like, we'll take that and we're going to use that for Easter.
You can keep that part.
You keep that part because that's kind of cool. And we're going to rock with that.
But now it's Jesus' bunny.
Yeah, now it's like Easter Jesus bunny. So now what happens is the non-believers, they rocked with the bunny story. So they was like, all right, some people like kind of melded it together. All right, we'll rock with Jesus too. We'll just put them together.
It's made it easier for them to flip.
Yeah, you know, that's what you do. You make
more people are probably like, when is Easter? Next weekend?
No,
it just passed.
It just passed.
Fucking scratch that. Joe, get that out.
But no. So they basically reappropriated the word to match their holiday, but it's not. That's why they call it Easter. So really, what was going on was Jesus was on his way to celebrate that the slaves got released. So the
Egypt, right?
Yeah, from Egypt, from Egyptian rule. So you know, Jesus and them, they went. Slaves got freed, and it was like, yo, slaves got free, we gonna party for a week. Actually, in the Bible, it says it's a festival. So they were going to have a festival to celebrate. Right. Remember the whole Last Supper thing?
Yeah.
That was a party. Like, they was like having a private dinner, then it was gonna party. Like in the Bible, it says when Jesus showed up, they was like throwing him gifts and happy to see him and
Jesus!
stuff. They was like, it was like a club, like Jesus in the house, and he started throwing ones and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So Jesus showed, he was on his donkey like, you know, like, I'm here, you know? Right. So he was coming to party with them. And he died, unfortunately. And we won't go over the whole circumstance, but he died. And everybody was sad. Then he came back. And I'm like, why are we not having no party? Like,
I mean, I'm with that. I like the logic. I mean,
right. If you died on your birthday and then came back 3 days later, what are we gonna do?
Turn the fuck up, yeah.
Celebrate your birthday.
Drake almost die again.
Exactly. You know, and that's what I'm saying. It's like people don't understand like the logic. It like it actually says it in the book. He was on his way to a festival celebrating Passover. He died. So in my infinite logic is why we not drinking and smoking. I mean,
like
Jesus drank.
Yeah, fuck yeah. We turn water into wine.
I know. You know my favorite thing about Jesus, people, and then people don't like to admit this. I want people to look it up. I can't remember the scripture. Go look it up. Just type in water to wine. Type in the marriage of Cana. So when he turned water to wine, he was at the marriage of Cana. And what Jesus did, they got drunk and they were wasted. It literally says they were full on wine. Translation, they were wasted. They were out. Jesus like, woman, bring me the water. Wine. I'm like, if that don't tell you we should be drinking, Jesus waited till everybody was wasted and gave them more wine.
Pulled out a party trick.
Right. Like, bam, guess what? Party not over. We still drinking.
The ultimate party trick.
Right. I'm like, it was like, you know, and I always order my dad. I'm like, Dad, why are we not drinking? Like, Jesus was like, get drunk and drink more. Like, I think there should be shots at church. I think that you walk in church.
Make it more enjoyable.
Take a shot of Patron or whatever alcohol of your choice. And you know what? Let's sit and listen, learn. You
Instead
know,
of one little tiny sip of wine, you get the whole fucking thing.
Right. Like when they had communion, it was a whole wine thing.
Yeah.
Why not like vodka?
I've heard some interesting theories about the origins of Christianity having to do with psychedelics and stuff too. That the early churches used to give psychedelics out, and even like, I mean, I don't know if it's true.
Right.
I'm being a parrot, but it's an interesting thing to think about. You know, like, you know when they walk down the aisles with that thing with the smoke?
Yeah.
Something that supposedly there's some things that they used to use that with marijuana in it, and like it helped experience.
But think about it. You never know. They was already stealing people holidays.
Yeah, I mean,
get you to convert. They was like, who knows what they did?
Exactly. They're gonna grease your palms to get you to convert.
They were like, yo, we just trying to get you to convert to what we doing.
Up. You can keep your holiday.
So I'll tell you another
great marketing campaign.
Another great marketing campaign.
Most successful one of all time.
Of Christianity is if you look up the original, you know, you got the picture of Jesus and this blonde haired guy with the long hair and stuff like that. It's like there's this one universal picture that when you look, you're like, that's Jesus.
Yeah.
Like if you see a guy in the street and he looks like this picture, you're like, that's Jesus.
Yeah.
You ever know where that picture come from? That was a marketing campaign. It literally says it. They made up a picture of this guy. Somebody painted it or whatever.
White dude.
Yeah. And they were like, we're gonna call this Jesus. And like this is like in the 19th century. They're like, we're gonna call this Jesus. Put it everywhere. And they paid. The church paid to put this picture everywhere and say, this is Jesus, because they was like, you know what? This guy is nice. He's white. Look at him. He looks calm. We're gonna make this Jesus.
Calm.
Yeah.
You know, there's no photographs back then. No one knows the fuck.
Right.
And he probably looked Middle Eastern.
No, but the thing is, like with still in the holidays, they actually put money into make. It wasn't like, hey, this is a nice picture of Jesus. We're just gonna use
probably
that.
hired the best
no,
painter.
No, they went and said, no, we're gonna make this Jesus. Put it everywhere. Change everything. And they actually had a campaign and fund to change.
Probably where the Vatican funded all that shit.
Right, to make what well, I don't know who funded it.
The Vatican's a very powerful.
Different churches funded it. So I don't want to say anything that I'm not sure of, but I know that different churches funded that. And they started in the United States and they funded it outside of the United States. So if you ever look up pictures of Jesus and what he looks like, I think it was in the 1950s when they did this. So it's recent, technically.
Joey, pull it up.
Yeah, like it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we just pull up that whole screen of Google image searches.
Right.
They all look relatively the same.
Whole bunch of white guys.
Long hair, bearded white dude. And
Yeah.
realistically, this guy probably looked much closer
At
to
minimum, he
Middle
should have had a
Eastern.
tan.
Yeah.
It's hot out there, and they have
He's
robes.
in the desert.
And half of them were barefoot. Like
That one on the bottom, and that one on the left side, like the bottom middle,
Yeah.
just to the right of the white dude, that one might have been too far. It looks almost like a sultan there.
Right. It needs to have some curly hair. There's absolutely no way his hair
was a
was.
surfer.
Yeah. Like really? Like come
I think
on.
I saw this guy at the Huff store.
Right.
Come on now.
But it's insane. But if you look
But
up,
people need to be comfortable. That's what it comes down to. If you want to convince someone to do something,
You
they
gotta
need to be able
be-
to see their own image in it. Oh, this could be my cousin.
right.
That's what it comes down to.
Right. And then everybody else falls in line.
Well, it's funny too because we were talking about also that what's the biggest Christian holiday of all? Christmas. And I mean, I don't care how much you believe in Christianity, the holiday in itself is fabricated.
Right.
And I hate to break it to you. I know we're ruining a lot of holidays for a lot of people right now, but the story is very similar.
Yeah.
They were on crusades. They were trying to convert pagans to convert to Christianity. And they were having a lot of hard times. When you roll up on a village, you know how to think of when this is, you know what I mean? Thousands of years ago, 1,000+ years ago. And they're rolling up on villages in the mountains who have had their way of life forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell them, everything you think about the world is wrong. And you need to think like us. And you guys, and this is no internet, there's no phone. You never seen people before. You're like, what the fuck is going on here?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, and they're trying to convince you, and they're literally trying to sell you on this. So how do they do that? Someone figured out another very smart marketing campaign. Let's make it as easy psychologically. Let's make it as easy of a transition as possible. How do we do that? Let's mimic the holidays they already celebrate and just plug in our figures. So they did that with Easter, and with Christmas, the big pagan holiday was the winter solstice. At the end of the year, end of December, they celebrated the winter solstice. So they said, you know what? Yeah, you already ended the year having a big party, right? Where you get together and you celebrate and you eat and you drink. Now, instead of calling it the winter solstice, whatever, now it's just Christmas. We're just going to say that Jesus was, his birthday was on the 25th of December. They picked an arbitrary day that was just the last week of the year, which is when that holiday was, and plugged it in.
And then they gave you gifts to make it sweet.
Yeah, and everybody gets gifts. It's like
everybody gets gifts.
It's just like buying your customers. But at the end of the day, like anybody, even if you do believe, so if you want to get controversial, I'm not even sure anymore in my older age that Jesus existed. It's debatable. You can't tell me you know. Show me his birth certificate. They didn't have him in the desert 2,000 years ago, I'll tell you that. But even if he did, from all the historical data and the stories and the manger and the situation that was going on seasonally, they say that if he was real, he was born in the spring. So this is just, it's not Jesus's birthday. And I love holidays. I love getting together with family. It's a great excuse to do it. But like, you know, just don't feed me the bullshit. But it's funny how far it's just become, no one even questions, it's accepted fact. You know, Jesus born, if you ask people when Jesus' birthday, they might not even know that actually nowadays. But if Christmas is Jesus' birthday, right? If you leave with that, they'll say yes. And December 25th, right? Yeah. Without question, never even thought about it.
And then Saint Nick came and gave you presents.
Yeah, and where'd that come from?
Because somebody had to give out the presents.
I guess.
You got it. It's like the Easter Bunny. Where did it come from? Somebody got it. There's got to be a mascot. You can't make Jesus the mascot. You got to have some other mascot. You know,
the fat guy in a red suit. It gets more and more ridiculous.
Every holiday is a party and has a mascot. I'm like, I see a theme. They're all parties.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you realize?
And they all have a mascot. That's right.
I'm like, I always tell people, I'm like, listen, think about today. What do we do when we get together with family? We drink and we party. Okay, maybe your family doesn't drink, but you party with your family. You have a good time.
You eat, you laugh, you joke.
Laugh. Right. All these holidays, there's a freaking party at the end. Every single one. Every single holiday is a party.
Yeah, facts.
It's all, because guess what? When they got together, they're like, we're going to have a party too.
And back then, life expectancy was like 30.
Right.
So you better be drinking and having a good time.
Right. You know, because you know what? It's just like now, you know, some things you don't post on social media, right? Well, some things those guys didn't write in that book.
I'm sure a lot.
Right. They're like, we're going to leave that out right there. We were wasted.
Don't talk about what he did that night. Yeah.
They were mad, like, he turned the wine. I told you not to write that part. Like, don't put that in there. I'm just turning stuff into wine, you know?
It all goes back to the greater, bigger point here that just people aren't thinking and they're not questioning the narrative, right?
Not at all.
It becomes, it's amazing to watch. And through this whole, the last year and the events that have transpired, right? I think everyone was on the same page last March. We were all scared, right? Different varying degrees. Some people were like, it's bullshit. Some people were like thinking it was going to be the apocalypse. Excuse me. Most people were in the middle. But a month in, 2 months in, lockdown, the media is pumping you with fear. Deaths are going up, and hospitals are saying overcrowded. And you know, it's looking like a movie out there. It's looking like an outbreak champ is running around.
Right.
So you're like, you don't know what the fuck's going on. And you know, at that point too, I think a lot more people were on board with the mask. No one's even really questioning it, myself included. Like, you know, it just seemed like the responsible thing to do. We don't know what's going on. It seems bad. Let's just play it safe, right? But the longer this is going on, it's amazing me that we're now over a year into this. And like, we've got a pretty good handle on what's going on. It seems to be one of those seasonal bad viruses, like a SARS or a MERS, you know what I mean? The swine flu, those kind of things where they pop up. And from everything that I'm reading, it's more or less like, I don't care what the fuck you do, unless you're isolating everybody in jail cells for 3 months, it's gonna spread, it's gonna run its course no matter what you do pretty much, and it's gonna die out. It has a life. And we've already kind of passed the worst part of it. And we know that it's not, we know what it is and what it isn't. Like, you know what I mean? It's apparently it can't survive outside. You know what I mean? So wearing a mask in a crowded place, I don't like to have to do it because I'm not sick. But I understand completely when people do it. I don't judge at all, right? Especially some people have compromised immune systems. They have family who compromised, they live with their grandmother. Totally responsible for you. I don't want to be one of those people who like, anyone who wears a mask is a sheep pussy. Like, I don't feel that way. You know what I mean? I think that maybe you should get a better mask than the ones the dentists wear. if you're really that concerned. However, I get it, and that's fine. That's completely understandable. But if you're jogging outside on a sunny day and you're wearing a mask, at that point, it's a phobia.
Right.
Phobia is an irrational fear.
Right.
You now have an irrational fear of this virus because it's not gonna, while you're running past me, go out me, escape the wind, go through the UV light, which apparently kills most of it, and go like it just you're ODing a little bit, like and then you're enforcing your viewpoint. People now are actually yelling at other people for not wearing masks outside.
But what happened was that lockdown time, which I think was super awesome. By the way, I think that the lockdown in the March and April that we went through was great because it showed me that no one thinks like. You literally had, we're going to call it a solid 60 to 90 days of people had time to sit and think. And it literally took them about 45 days to even start thinking. Like, no one even started thinking. They was like, hey, we locked down. But you go outside, you're going to die. Like, and I'm going to rock. And then they had to sit at home for 45 days before they were like, looks nice outside, though. Maybe I'll go outside and try it.
Would be nice just to get some sunlight right
now.
Like,
you know what? Oh, man, I was outside the other day. And then people were like, okay, and then all of a sudden we kind of started going outside and things like that, and everybody was doing different things. And it just goes back to what we were saying before about the ignorance and the lack of critical thinking. And you put these leaders in place, and they don't have any critical thinking skills either. So it's like, like it's all over the map. So me, for example, I was the one that took me about 48 hours to critically think and analyze the situation. And I wasn't locked down. I was traveling. I went all over the place. I went to Paris. I went to Italy. I went everywhere. I was like, this is great. There's nobody around. I can do whatever I want.
Parkways are wide open.
Parkways are wide open. There was only me on the plane, me and my kids. I was like, hey, pack it up. School's out. We're leaving. You know what I'm saying? And people were like looking at me like, oh my God, I can't believe you're outside. And I laugh at people because I'm like,
you're the crazy one. Yeah.
You're like, I was crazy in March. I was crazy in April, but I'm like, what's changed between March and April to now? Now everybody's on the plane. We say social distance, but we don't because we sit beside each other on the plane. Like
6 feet apart on the line that's next to each other.
It's like ignorance. Ignorance is like, and then you bring it up.
Those contradicting rules drive me insane.
No, that's me too. And I'm just like, I don't understand. And I'm like,
explain the logic.
The lack of critical thinking and just going along with whatever it says. And then you have the leaders or lawmakers making illogical,
pumping more fear,
information out there, laws and policies. And I'm just like, people, if you stop for 5 seconds,
I'm with you. Told.
I don't want people to get sick. I have respect for people and their immune systems.
I know people that have lost loved ones.
Right, and I know people. And I know, and I'm not saying it's not fake.
It's not fake.
Yeah, it's not fake, and I'm not saying that. But there's levels. You know what I'm saying? There's levels. Like my mom, for example, I didn't go visit my mom. All that travel I did, I never went to visit my mom because she's older.
Safe.
She has medical issues.
Safe and logical.
But me and my kids, we're out.
Yeah, and kids have almost no risk.
Right. So
there are very few kids that have actually gotten suffered from this.
I just hope that, I think that the world in general would be a better place if, how you talk about people are kind of, they don't have the time to look stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
I debate that. I'm like, the things
half don't have the time, half don't care.
And half don't care, right. I think that if the things that you do look at, because you can't look at everything, but the things that you're reposting, the things that you're looking at.
Well, if you're going to repost, you better fucking look.
No, come on, repost. Oh, that's crazy, repost. Like, that's how things go viral.
Every 2 months.
Right. I'm like, if people just take a minute and just read it, it's all there. And it'll make sense.
Full contact.
And we'll all, 99% of us will probably agree. But that's just not what's happening. It's like, it's crazy. And it's like, you got people out there. My favorite question to ask people, I have friends that have like been locked down. And I'm like, so why are you coming outside now? Like, you've been so.
Oh, rates are down, or the vaccine's out, or vaccine apparently doesn't. I hate to even say that word now because God knows when we flagged. But it's saying it doesn't stop transmission.
Right.
And it won't be relevant once the new fucking variant changes.
Exactly.
And rates when they opened up, like New York City a few weeks ago, when they relinquished some of the restrictions, the numbers were actually worse than when they put the lockdown in.
Right. That's what gets me. I'm like, so let me get this straight. The numbers are worse, but we're not locked down. I'm like, hey, I say lock everything back down because I want to travel. I'm just saying, lock it all back down because I like $10 plane tickets. I don't fly Spirit, but for $8, I will give anything a try.
I'll stop. a wing. But what bothers me is that, like you just said, if you're gonna do a lockdown, right? And I don't think anybody anticipated it being this long. But if you were gonna do an actual lockdown to make a difference, you'd have to do a hard lockdown. Like, okay, you have 48 hours, get your affairs in orders, and then you cannot literally leave your house other than a medical emergency for 2 weeks.
Right.
And if you did that, it would actually make a difference because you're limiting the interaction, right? But to say everyone's gonna close their business except the Walmarts and the Home Depots and all these big box stores.
Right.
It's like, well, you're defeating the whole purpose.
Right.
And people are still interacting just in the stores that lobby for you.
Right. Exactly.
So I think the biggest thing people are missing here is that you have one side who are so blind that they think that these government officials care about them and are making these decisions for their own best interest, right? For you guys, we're looking out for you, and they believe
because it
that,
feels good.
Yeah, they want to feel
it feels good.
They want to believe that moral bullshit, and then you have the other half. I wouldn't say half and half, but you have most of the people on one side believing that, and then most of the people on the other side thinking that they're getting ready to load us in boxcars and execute us, and this is all George Soros.
Right.
You don't have to be that. You don't have to go that deep into thinking of the nefariousness of this thing to really understand it. It's just about money and power. This gives them themselves more. They used never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Never
that was
let
Obama's advisor's famous quote.
Yep.
And it comes down to they don't create these crises, but they seize them as opportunities to push their agenda.
Right. So
they're looking for reasons to give themselves more power.
Right.
And this has been the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of currency.
Right.
The last year, we saw, the bottom 80% of our population lose $3 trillion in net worth, and the top 20% gain $3 trillion.
Right.
It's just been a giant transfer of wealth because mom and pop shop, the deli on the corner, had to close down. Guess what? Amazon and Walmart had their best year ever.
Right.
And those are the people who lobby the politicians making the rules. How can you expect the people that are getting paid by some of the people in this equation to make a fair decision? Well, John's Deli on the corner gave me exactly $0. He probably voted for Trump. Jeff Bezos and the Waltons family is giving us billions of dollars.
Matter of fact, they're coming over for dinner tomorrow, and we're going to talk about the things he's concerned with. Now I'm concerned with it.
Who gets to get closed? I wonder.
Right.
And I wonder if it's got to do with that or the fact that they really care.
Right.
Come on, fuck on.
It's like, who's paying your paycheck?
That's it. I love that. Some comedian said that they should be like NASCAR drivers, where they have.
They have to wear right. Yeah.
Berkshire, Halliburton, whatever.
Right. That's what happened. Like with all the money, the relief money. I'm like, how hard was it that all the relief money, and then you got all these major brands getting the relief money, and I'm just like,
why?
What? Because it makes sense. Because guess what? I sponsored you. So wait, $10 trillion?
Kickback.
Hey, I'm gonna get a little of that because I'm gonna get my money back. And you know what the crazy part is? They're gonna take some of that money and give it back to them anyway because it's free money, and that keeps them in their pocket. And it's all a cycle.
It's a big thing people miss too with like all this stimulus shit. It's like most of the majority of the money given out, right? Because everyone got a $1,400 check made under a certain threshold. Excuse me. And then a lot of companies got the loans and stuff.
Right.
So on the EIDL and the PPP stuff, they say they've identified already. Who knows what the final number is? 35% of the money given out gone to fraud.
Right.
35%.
Yeah.
Digest that for a second. Beyond that, how much money got given to corporations who didn't need it?
Right.
And people who didn't need it. And then the people who did get it, the majority was spent on retail, which guess where that money goes? Back to the corporation.
Yep.
So like all this money that you're just printing out of thin air, devaluing the money that you have already, getting rid of your buying power through inflation. And so people don't realize that inflation is a major tool of government.
Yep.
It's not on purpose. So quantitative easing is when there's an economic crisis and their idea is, well, we'll print more money to solve it.
Right.
And people are like, oh, well, that helps, the little guy. No. It helps the big guy. How? It helps the government because let's say the government owes the national debt at that time was now it's closing on 30 trillion, right? Which is an inconceivable number. So they use it as a tool of manipulation where at that point they owed 25 trillion, let's say, use an even number.
Right.
If they print so much money that the dollar gets devalued,
then it
devalues their debt.
Right.
Their debt is now less of an obligation because it's worth less.
Yeah.
So the person who's on a fixed income,
Yeah.
the school teacher, your union worker,
Right.
whatever it is, their buying power now goes down. Their $80,000 a year salary is the equivalent of last year being worth
Right.
$60,000.
Because the buying power is down, and it's insane because I always tell people like,
I was all making an argument that
like,
inflation helps small guy. I'm like,
right.
are you kidding?
It's not it's like you're literally killing them. And I was like, it's like, man, so I'm gonna start running my business like the government because I didn't know you can just keep going in debt and keep winning. Like, at what point do we pay off some bills? Like,
Never.
Like when does your business, every business, you have investors, loans, whatever, you're always trying to pay back your debt and then make more money. That's kind of the thing we do. Even people in their personal lives, they get debt, they pay back the debt, and they keep growing money to do whatever they want to do with. The government is like, print more. Let's just keep going in it. Like, I'm like, what? The government should have like a 200 credit score. Like
less.
Like
zero.
Because they don't even pay the money back.
They just extend the credit line.
It's just like, you know what? Refinance that and run it back.
And then bump up the limit. Right. And then their solution is always, well, let's increase taxes. It's like, yo, if you make a lot of money in this country, you're already working half the time for other people.
Right.
You're getting paid half of your money is taken in taxes.
Right.
More?
Right.
What? So that for 1 second do we consider the fact, let's cut spending, right? Like how can a budget, every year the federal government has a budget. People keep, again, people don't think. People are so excited about getting money from the government.
No one reads that, by the way. Like, no one reads.
Oh my God! If
the
they
budget.
did, if they saw them where the money was going,
Right? No,
we'll get there in a second.
Wait, before I say no one, including the politicians. No one reads it.
There'll be a 5,000-page bill. They'll get it at noon and vote on it at 3 o'clock.
It's good.
So, my head's gonna explode. So, two things. One, people don't understand when they're getting money from the government, that's your own money. The government doesn't have money. The only money the government has is what they take from you in taxes.
Right.
So you're literally getting your own money given to you only to be paid back later with interest. Like you're not thinking this through very clearly. That $1,400 is just getting tacked on to the national debt, which gets paid for by taxes, which gets paid for by people who work like you.
Which then, when you do your taxes, they, hey, did you get a refund check? Check, we're just marking you down to see if you got it, because guess what? We're gonna ding you later because we took that money out to pay you back the money. And I was just like,
it's a Ponzi scheme. Like Social Security is a Ponzi scheme at this point.
It's like, wait,
there's no way it's gonna be around my time we get it. By the time I get 65, whatever the fuck it is, zero chance.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that when you take this all into account, right? How can they pass so let's say 2022, we're gonna set the budget. How much money as a collective, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have in each individual lives, but our interests intersect on some things. Right? We have public roads, we have hospitals, we have the army that keeps us safe, and all the branches of the military. So we need to have a community pool of all of our money where we each kick in a piece of our earnings so that we can have something for the greater good. A safety net for people, all those things the government provides.
You got to run the community. You got it.
Yeah, it's like an HOA, right?
Yeah, it's like an HOA.
So for your community, you want to keep the sprinklers on, the community area, the gym, whatever it is.
Right.
So we're estimating that based on our numbers, we're gonna bring in, after taxing everybody, about $3.5 trillion for our community fund. But somehow every year they pass a budget that is more than the $3.5 trillion. How can you start the year already conceding defeat that you're going to spend more money than you're taking in? With compounding interest and the fact that we're already $30 trillion in debt, it should be illegal to pass a budget that is negative. You don't have that to spend. It should have to be less than the net of all the taxes.
And that's what I'm trying to do with my credit cards. I'm just trying to be negative all the time. I mean, I've been like, yo, American Express, listen, I know, I'm paying a little bit, but I'm going to give you $300K, but I'm going to spend $800. We good? Like, that's what I want to do.
And then at the end of the month, when they ask for the $800K, you ask for an increase to $1.5 million.
Right. And then I'm going to get back with you.
And then it's $2 million, and they just keep extending the
ceiling. Like, and it like you said, logic. People don't think. And it's like, that should not be okay. I don't care what program you got to cut, what you got to do.
All of them.
Like, but you got to get your bills paid. So because I'm like, thing is, if you're going to do that as a government, you need to let everybody rock like that.
Yeah.
Let everybody rock like that. If we let everybody rock like that, then I'm cool with what you do, because then I can do it too.
There's a tipping point, right? So I think Clinton balanced the budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Clinton balanced the budget. That's in the fucking 90s. We were at zero debt.
Right.
We were even. Bush spent a lot of fucking money. Obama spent a fucking ton of money. Trump spent a fucking ton of money. And we're here in this fucking mess. You got to rein it in at some point, right? But people don't understand is the tipping point, right? Like, everyone is getting money given to them, and yeah, it's great, and they're buying people at this point. Like, Biden on the campaign trail was like, if I get in day one, you're gonna get $2,000. That should be illegal to even say. Like, you're gonna offer a financial incentive to people to vote for you. That's fucking crazy. And Trump, like an idiot, agreed to it.
Right.
He said, I think maybe buys it 1,200, and then
Trump said 2,000. Right.
Like, we're not in an auction house.
Right.
Doing, bro.
Like, I'll take it. And then, like, where's my money?
There's a tipping point where eventually the whole system collapses. You can't just devalue money forever. We had hyperinflation.
Right.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing things right now to offset that risk by buying real property or cryptocurrency or precious metals, you're in for a fucking rude awakening, man. You see what's happening with gas right now.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm old enough to remember 3 months ago when gas was $2 something a gallon, and now it's $4. You know what I mean? Like, when that starts happening to your bread and your milk and your electric, it's going to get scary if you're on a fixed income. If you're not working for yourself, or you can actually kind of adjust your prices, and you're on a fixed income, inflation is a fucking silent killer. Right. Now,
but won't they just print more money?
People think that's the answer. People just print more money. I had an argument with somebody.
I know.
We were screaming at each other. We were at a Greek restaurant in Miami. Me and my boy Evan, shout out Evan, and we went with this older guy. He's like, "Well, you can just print more money. That's a fallacy that causes inflation." I'm like, "What in the history of the world can you make more of a supply of, and the value doesn't go down?" It's just like basic human, like a law of nature. But whatever. Here nor there. That gets me to my next point, though, because I wanted to talk a little bit about it seems like you've lived 5 lives. Would you agree with that? I'm sure.
I would agree. Yeah.
So when getting into the cryptocurrency, because it's an interesting way that a lot of people that I know have used to offset the inflation of the last year, and they've made a killing doing it. It seems to be almost betting against fiat. And like, if you believe the dollar is going to implode, like, bet on some crypto. And a lot of people are doing that. I was told about Bitcoin for the first time in 2012 by my boy Chad, and he told me about it. And when he explained it to me, he didn't do a great job explaining it to me. And at that time, really, the only people that were using Bitcoin were buying drugs on Silk Road. So it was like, when he told me about it, I was like, yeah, no thanks. He's like, well, it's just digital money and this, that, and that. I'm like, this sounds like money laundering and like someone's gonna take it. I'm like, no, thank you. Had I bought some Bitcoin in 2012, I'd be retired right now. However, it is what it is. But you were one of the first people that I met years ago who told me they were actually mining Bitcoin. So how did you get into that, and what was that process like?
So the funny story is I knew about crypto. I think I started 2015-ish. And going back to our conversation about ignorance, I was like, all right, how does this shit work? Like, I don't understand. Like, so you're gonna tell me that there's this digital money. I'm like, credit cards are digital money, technically. What the hell's going on? So I actually stopped and looked up how it worked. And then I ran into the mining. And it was like... Do
you understand how blockchain technology works?
Yeah.
Okay. I need this discussion.
Okay.
Because I understand very loosely, but I can't...
I'll give you the...
When someone asks me, I can't explain it. I really don't know.
I'll give you the 60 seconds in layman's terms. Okay.
I'm a layman.
All right. So... let me stop. So just people understand, you got cryptocurrency. Or the backbone of cryptocurrency is the blockchain.
Yeah.
The reason any cryptocurrency works is because of the blockchain.
Which is the technology behind it.
All the blockchain is a checks and balance system via a ledger. So I'm going to exchange the word ledger for Excel spreadsheet because people understand Excel spreadsheets. So all the ledger / Excel spreadsheet it's recording every transaction. So for example, if I say, hey, Johnny, I have $5, I'm going to give you that $5. Now I don't have $5. In that ledger, it says T gave Johnny $5. Or actually it said on that day or that time.
X0437.
Right. At that day, at that time, T gave $5 to him. So Johnny's bank account went up $5 and T's bank account went down $5. Okay. It's recorded in the ledger. All right. The blockchain is when you take that information and that ledger is publicly shared across the whole world. All right. So once you share that ledger across the world, if Johnny goes back and says, hey, T didn't give me my $5, or if Johnny says, I really have $5 million, everybody's going to just check the ledger. and everybody has a copy. So you can't forge it because everyone has a copy. You know, so it's like, nah, Johnny, you lying. Like,
So that's
I got a copy.
so
I got a copy. Everybody got a copy.
So that's the
So
copy is the value. It's everybody because
right.
so everybody. So not only is it public,
Right.
but everybody gets a copy of
So
it.
let's break down the words blockchain. Okay. It's every addition to the ledger is a link in the chain.
Interesting.
Right.
So it's constantly getting longer.
Exactly. So the ledger never changes from the time that it started. And that's what makes it, the guy that invented it is genius, because he's like, hey, we're just going to take this thing, we're going to record it, and we're going to, we can use it for money.
Satoshi,
right.
His name is.
Yeah.
If it really is who it was.
But we're going to, we can use it for money, because they use the blockchain for other things. You know,
before this.
Well, no, after this, because remember,
now they're using all kinds of
right. Because really, it's the simplest thing of you can't forfeit something or duplicate or fake something that everybody knows. If we do 2 + 2 is 4 and we write it down and we give it to the whole world, you can't say it's 5 because everyone in the world has a piece of paper that says it's 4. That's what the blockchain is.
So is Bitcoin the first blockchain?
Bitcoin is the first use of the blockchain. So Bitcoin isn't blockchain. Bitcoin uses the blockchain. So blockchain is a technology.
Okay.
So for example, cars that drive themselves are using blockchain.
Really?
Right. Because once you put in the ledger, Excel spreadsheet, that there's a stop sign right there, that's that there, that's that there, that's that there.
Build upon
right.
The
everybody agrees on it. So now everybody navigates according to what's everyone agrees on. It's out there.
Wow.
But once you make a change to it, it adds to the link. Everybody gets the information. Now everybody's operating off the same piece of information. That's what the blockchain is. So it's, in essence, it's simply simple, to sum it up. The blockchain is a ledger that records information and is shared across the world to everyone. And since it's open source and everyone has a copy, you can't duplicate it. That's why crypto can't be cracked. Because in order to crack crypto, you have to crack the blockchain. In order to crack the blockchain, you have to crack every single computer that the blockchain rests on, which is millions of computers. And it's just not possible, ever. You can't. You just can't crack every computer. And you have to do it at the same time. You can't crack one. You got to do it all. Because if you crack one computer and change the blockchain, every other computer is going to be like, yeah, you lying. That ain't true. Yeah, so you're out. And now, so it's not. So that's what the blockchain is.
Makes sense.
Separate from cryptocurrency.
Got it. So now, 2015, you hear about it.
Right.
How do you go from, so I'm guessing the idea excited you and you looked into it, but how did you get to mining it?
So I was at this Christmas party. Okay, it was a Christmas party.
Which solstice party?
Yeah, we were partying for Jesus. And we were out and I was talking to a guy about crypto and we were like, he's like, you heard about mining? And I was like, yeah, I heard about it, He's like, because when I first heard about it, I was like, it seemed like something that I couldn't do. So he was telling me some information. I'm like, wait, I'm IT. I can do that. So that's when I went and researched, looked it up, and I figured out mining is great. Without mining, there's no crypto. Because going back from the explanation of the ledger and how...
Explain mining.
Right. So back to the explanation of the ledger, right? You got all these computers, right? And they all have the same information, okay? How to get there?
Good, that's what I want to know.
Right. That's what mining is.
Okay.
So they termed it mining because it was a term for people to easily kind of wrap their head around. So mining is two things. Mining is A, the actual processing of transactions of crypto, and B, the creation of crypto.
So I understand the recording part, right? So you're one of those ledgers now.
Yeah.
I'm documenting. I saw this too. I saw T give John $5. I'm writing it down.
Right.
But how does the creation part happen?
So when the guy that created cryptocurrency, not just Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, he said, okay, in order to create this currency, we're going to have this really hard math problem. And every time you solve the math problem, it creates another instance of that crypto.
So the reward for solving the problem was the creation of a new Bitcoin?
Right.
Interesting.
So,
or a fraction of a Bitcoin, whatever it is.
Right. So what happened is the math problem's so hard, it takes hundreds of millions of computers I shouldn't say hundreds of thousands of computers to solve the math problem. And it gets perpetually harder. So every time it gets solved, a coin is created, but now it's harder to solve the next one.
So it's AI figuring it out?
Well, no, it's the computers are figuring it out.
That's what I mean. So but
it's not, I wouldn't say AI, it's the computers.
Okay.
So that's why when you the mining is really computers trying to solve a math problem, but it's so hard it takes a lot of computers to do it. So
So you had like a room full of computers, right?
right. But it's not, don't think of a room. Think about all the computers connected via the internet. So now you got computers all over the world trying to solve this problem.
But who gets the credit?
Everyone who put in on it.
Oh, so you guys split it.
Right. There you go.
Interesting.
Now you're seeing how it works because it can't take one computer.
Yeah.
So let's say 10,000 computers solved the math equation, added the answer to the blockchain. It's recorded. New problem goes into effect. Everyone who put in on solving that problem, put in meaning the computers that work the problem out, they get a little piece of reward for solving the problem.
Interesting.
Right.
So now, and that's the other genius thing that the guy did was he made a finite amount of
Right.
the Bitcoins that could ever be mined.
Right. Because there's an end to the problem. It's a math problem. There's an end to the problem. So when the problem reaches to an end, the computers stop mining for crypto.
I'm surprised that no government entity has created some kind of like a supercomputer that can like eat up most of the
The problem is you can't. Because that's how many computers it takes.
Mm.
So back in 2018,
I can see like China opening up a fucking soccer stadium full of a million computers.
But back in 2018, they said it would take roughly $3 million worth of just computing hardware to try to be the person that's doing most of the math problem. That's just the hardware. That's not cooling it, running it, all those things that have to do with it. So
it's still a number that a government could absorb.
Well, but it's too late because back then they wasn't thinking about it. Now that number is just you can't absorb it.
I'm sure, yeah, it's probably ridiculous. Right. And like there's some kind of a thing called halving, where every couple of years the reward for mining gets cut in half.
It gets cut in half. The reason is the way the math problem has worked. Once the math problem gets to a certain point, it's half. The reward is half because of the math problem is solved, and it breaks it down.
Interesting.
Right, because in his ingenious thought process when he made this up, he wanted to keep it to where it basically got to a point where it's finite. Because in his mind, he was making money. So, like you said, you can't just print money, right? He was like, well, I'm going to solve that. I'm going to make it so you're going to reach in. Now, the value of it will be different, but you can't make more. So he had that thought prior to.
That's the only thing. That's the only way you can keep something valuable.
Right.
And it makes sense.
Right.
And like that's why people don't. It's so short-sighted. Like, I was watching the other day, and they were talking about how like democracy is all about like people don't realize we're not a democracy. We're a democratic republic.
Right.
We're a combination.
I say that all the time.
We're a combination of the two things, right?
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
We don't just vote on everything, and whoever gets the most votes wins. That's not how this works. Because if it did, especially now with the way our culture is now, if they said everybody gets $100,000 check from the government, everyone would be like, yes. That's so short-sighted of what that does to our country.
Right.
And like we can't even trust people to fucking do that anymore.
Right.
We can't trust people to make the right decision for our own best interest anymore, which is scary.
Right.
But so now, sorry to go off track. So now you have, in 2015, you built one of these rooms full of computers.
Mm-hmm.
And was that a successful endeavor?
Yeah. So 2017, and it was a success. But what people don't understand about the mining is
but it runs itself once you set it up, right?
Oh yeah, once it's set up,
it's a passive situation.
Yeah, it's just a passive situation. But what happened is it was really successful because the math problem wasn't as hard back then. So as the math problem got harder, you needed more computers to help solve it. But these computers that are solving it, they run 100% of the time. At 100% utilization, things burn out. That's why the hardest part about mining crypto is keeping the equipment cool. Your heating, your air conditioning bill. Because imagine running your computer at 100%. It's gonna be hot.
And a bunch of them.
Imagine having a room of them. You know how cold it has to be? That's how data centers are now. Data centers are freezing because these computers are running all the time. So
I didn't know that.
Imagine if you had a data center that was mining crypto, all those computers are running hot all the time and they burn out. You got to keep switching them out, and the electricity bills skyrocketed.
And then the rewards getting halved every couple of years.
Exactly. And then technology is getting slower. You got to buy new technology just faster. So it worked great, but then what happened is crypto actually caught on, which nobody thought about, because remember the second half of mining is actually the transactions. So if I give you, 1 Bitcoin, how does that get recorded to the ledger?
I have no idea.
So if you ever transfer crypto, you don't have crypto, but if you ever transfer it, what happens is you'll see like it has a check. It's going through these series of checks. What's really happening is the miners, all those computers in the world, everybody's helping write to the ledger. So we're writing to the ledger. Hey, everybody, hey, this is happening. Let's validate it. This is really happening. Okay, bet it's happening. Cool. You know, and then you get 13 to 27 computers actually make sure it's cool. Those 27 computers agree, writes to the ledger. All the other computers get it. Transactions complete. That's what happens. Those are actually the same computers that are doing the mining.
Okay.
So those computers doing the mining are actually moving the money around. What happens now? Everybody and your mom's talking about crypto. So guess what? Lots of transactions are happening.
Yeah,
so equate it to a POS system.
So you're not getting paid on that part either.
You are.
You get paid on the transaction also?
Right, but it's very minimal.
Okay.
It's very minimal. But that's where now that's where
returns at some point.
Right. Well, that's why mining gets to be not as profitable because there's so many transactions happening and you're getting paid minimal.
Does that slow down the mining part?
Well, it doesn't slow it down. The speed of the mining depends on how many computers are on the network doing the mining.
I'm saying that same computer is now being offset, having to manage all these transactions.
Yep, exactly.
It's diverting some of the energy.
Exactly. That's why right now, you know, we don't go to Starbucks and say, hey, I'm going to use crypto. The reason why is because it takes too long to process a transaction.
So that's the other thing I've heard too, is that apparently Bitcoin is almost like old technology. There's other crypto technologies that are faster.
Right. They process transaction faster. So Bitcoin, you'll never go to store and use Bitcoin. Bitcoin's like the gold. But you have other cryptos that have figured out how to use the blockchain to operate faster. So once whichever that crypto is going to be, it'll be like the US dollar because we'll use it every day. But the hindrance now is the speed. When you go into Starbucks, for example, and you buy a coffee,
you can't wait half an hour for the ledger to catch up.
You can't even wait 8 minutes. You don't want to wait.
Yeah.
You swipe your card, and that's what the whole POS system does. It makes sure that the money goes from your card to Starbucks and is credited, and that's why you pay the 3% fee, because that's what they're doing in the background, and there's a trust there. Well, with cryptocurrency, there's no bank. There's these computers that are decentralized, so I'm not leaving until I make sure it's processed. Or the Starbucks won't let you leave.
Yeah, make sure they're getting paid too.
Make sure you're getting paid. Right. That's why you don't use it like regular.
I wonder when it's going to get to the point where
it's almost there.
Yeah.
It's almost there.
What do you think is going to be the coin that is used for the fastest transaction?
If I knew that, I probably would know the winning lottery numbers and personally be talking to Jesus.
Yeah. I don't mean which one's going to win and wouldn't be the one that like survives or ends up being the one coin, but technology wise, which is the fastest right now?
The fastest, I think it was, the last I checked, I think it was it Lightning? I'm not sure what the fastest is now because it actively changes daily.
Okay.
But
it's like thousands of coins.
It's just thousands of coins, right?
And we're in a little bit of a mini bubble. Like I know people personally who have their own coin now and shit, and celebrities are making their own coin.
So when you started about crypto, we were talking about people were like, hey, you know, fiat. Nobody even knows. Half the people listening or people around, they don't know what fiat is. I give classes on money because it's like it irked me about the knowledge. People are like, what about crypto? I'm like, yeah, you should get into it. Why? Let me tell you about money because it's how it works.
Money's all fake.
Right. This is where it's going. But people don't understand it. So now you got people out there creating their own coins, have absolutely no clue what crypto is, don't know what the blockchain is, don't understand how it works, but now they're creating coins because of that ignorance.
But it's that weird catch-22, right? Where when it comes to like intrinsic value, right? Because people want to say, you know, I have friends that work in finance, right? Not crypto finance, like regular Wall Street type of deal. And a lot of those guys have a big cognitive distance with crypto. Like it's bullshit. It's a Chuck E. Cheese token. Shout out Josh Westy, you listening? But like they'll talk about it like it's worthless and has no real value. But I'll be like, what value does the dollar have? So I heard a great explanation of where the dollar came from. It was the easiest way to break it down. So for thousands of years, gold has been the store of value, right? And back in the day, people used to trade gold for things. But most of the time, people were very self-sufficient, and you didn't need to, you weren't going all day out to the store to buy stuff. People worked their own land and survived off it. So gold was only used for major purchases, and it could be used here and there. It got to the point where gold is A, very heavy, when people were traveling around before cars and shit like that. And B, you can't fractionalize it.
Right.
You can't, if you have a gold bar and you want to buy a fucking coffee, would you chip off a little piece? Like, it's very impractical, especially back then.
Right.
So what dollars represented was just an IOU for gold.
Right.
That's all it was.
Yep.
This represents gold that exists elsewhere.
Right.
And the way we can exchange the paper, we don't have to carry a sack of gold with us on our business trip.
Right.
That carried on for hundreds of years, whatever it was, up until I think the 1970s when they got rid of the gold standard.
Yeah.
I think it was like 1971. Nixon got rid of the gold standard, and I think it was supposed to be temporary, from what I understand. So every dollar before that was just an IOU, right?
For gold, right.
Here's a $5 bill, which means this is a representation of $5 of gold stored in, I guess it's Fort Knox, right?
Right.
Stored there, and I own that piece of the gold, and now you own it, and they'll give me some services or goods in exchange for it.
Right.
At that point, when he got, I think it was something to do with competing with another foreign country. Maybe it was Russia, or whatever it was. It was a way, it was some kind of currency manipulation, basically. But he got rid of the gold standard.
Right.
And now every dollar didn't have to be backed by gold. So you have to just print more.
They backed the dollar. The government backed the dollar.
Government backed the dollar, yeah. So
instead
now
of backing back the gold, the
now
government.
You believe in the U.S. government,
Exactly.
but it's more or less, that's just as good as me writing IOU on a piece of loose leaf.
Right.
It means literally nothing.
Right.
So if your argument against cryptocurrency is that it's intrinsically worthless, I mean, the dollar is even more worthless.
Right.
There's not even technology behind it. And even worse than that,
Right.
even the gold itself, I understand gold's a theoretical store of value, but if you lost everything, if everything in your life had to be converted to gold, and then they handed you the gold, what the fuck are you gonna do with that?
You can't do nothing. I always tell people, we talk about intrinsic value. I'm like, you know what? If this glass right here is equal to me giving you a car, then and everyone agrees.
It's subjective.
That's how you get intrinsic value.
Right? A fucking Beanie Baby could be worth $500. It's a fucking piece of, it's cloth with stuffing in it.
Right. It's if everyone agrees that the value of something is what it is, then it is.
And now enough people are agreeing on the value of cryptocurrency.
Exactly. But the thing with cryptocurrency before, how I saw where it was going was, I looked at the history of fiat in itself. You just explained the first half right there. But then after a while, dollars and cents, coins, it came a little hard too. So let's write checks. Then checks became hard. So let's do credit cards. Then credit cards are like, well, we don't really have to have the actual card. Let's just tap our phone.
How about derivatives?
Tap our phone that's where crypto's going. Because guess what? No one's really paying attention to what it is. It's just what it values and you can use to it for exchange.
So building what you just said with the digital currency, right? So people don't understand, 90% of the currency in the world is digital.
Right.
It's not actually and it's not backed by anything.
Right.
So it's just numbers on a fucking computer.
Numbers on a
computer. And what people don't realize is, let's say you go to the bank and they write you a mortgage. Right? You go and I won't pretend to be an expert in this, but I know the basics of it. But if you go and get a loan from Chase Bank and you walk in and say, I want to buy a house, and they write you a loan for $500,000.
Right.
That $500,000 doesn't come out of their savings account and then go to the person that you're buying it from.
Right.
But they created a thin air.
Right.
That money is just invented.
Yep.
It didn't exist prior to the second they hit the fucking button on the keyboard.
Right.
And now that money is just there.
Right.
And they also get to borrow in multiples of how much money they have.
Right.
So it's all fake.
It's all fake.
It's all fake. We just all agree on the fake.
It's and that's the agreement part. It's like the bank says, you know what? I'm gonna give you $500,000 and you agree to take it. So now there's magically $500,000 in the air, and then guess what? You're like, I'm gonna pay you back. And it's like, here's money that I never got from my employer because it's on a computer and it goes, there's no cash.
Yeah.
It's all electronic. It's all ones and zeros.
It's all fake.
And I like going back to what you said. So how do you be mad at crypto?
If tomorrow a solar flare came and knocked out electrical grid, how do you prove what you're worth if all your money's in the fucking bank?
Right. Exactly.
You're broke, essentially.
Right.
You're nothing to barter with.
Yep.
I swear I had $100 million in my bank account.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck, kid.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Very fragile system. It's
just on the opposite side, if all of a sudden I have $500 million in my account, look at it says right there. The ones and zeros don't lie, right?
The computer screen.
The computer screen says I do. So guess what? I'm gonna go out and move money around.
Super interesting.
So but it's funny because I think the theme of what we're talking about today is the lack of people's ignorance. Like people just, oh, I guess so. I guess that sounds about right. We'll ride with that out.
But they don't go that far. They never even think, oh, it sounds about right. They just go.
They just go with it.
They just go. They're just told what to think.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's like, you know, you got people out there, you know, dying for money. And I'm just like, is it really real? Like, what are we really doing? You know, what's the value of what you're doing right now? It just blows my mind.
Well, we're at the point now where people will go and take to the streets and march for something that they don't even think about.
Yep.
So, and again, one of those street interview guys, I'm trying to think of his name. It's a very Jewish name. The guy's name, I think it's Horowitz. He works for like PragerU or one of those things. It's a right-wing media source, but they're not like extreme by any measure.
Right.
And they go, and what I do, what I love, and it's very eye-opening, and you can see how it would happen, is they'll go to these marches, no matter what the cause of the day is, and they'll start asking people in the march questions.
Right.
And it's fucking fascinating psychologically to see the layers of what happens. So they'll be in the street and they'll be fully dressed for the cause.
Yeah.
Maybe they're wearing a pussy hat. Maybe they're carrying a sign.
Yep.
They're chanting. They're marching. They're invigorated.
Yeah.
They are like, you would think if just by passing by, this guy lives and breathes for that cause.
Does not even know the basis.
So we'll pick a random one. I don't know. Let's just say, you know, equal pay for women, or whatever the topic of the day, whatever that march so happens to be. And they'll go out and they'll ask them a very basic leading question that's easy to answer and that anybody in that place can answer. What are you here for today? And the answer is very clear, very obvious, and very concise, and very stern.
And passionate about it.
I'm here because it's outrageous that women aren't making equal money as men, and you know, yada yada. Okay, and you say, okay, that's first layer of thinking. That's the parrot. That's repeating what you've been told. Okay, we're at that surface level right now of understanding. They ask a follow-up question, which is usually not even that complicated and not even like super detailed or like you're not pointed. It's just kind of asking to expand on that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? And already it throws them off, and it shows you how people are so used to being in an echo chamber where their ideas are never questioned or challenged. So they have to, like, all of a sudden the answer is not immediate. It's not fired.
Yeah,
back.
you could go like,
it's like, oh, well, and you know, they'll say something like, you know, I just think it's outrageous that women and men working the same job make different amount of money. And it's usually what they usually say second is usually not true.
Right.
So now the person who's interviewing follows up with factual evidence to refute their point, and then ask them to expand on it again.
And then they have to make a decision if they're gonna rock with their old information, or they're gonna be like.
At that point, you see cognitive dissonance. You see them start to tighten, and you see them panic. You see them literally panic, where it's like, okay, like, I was not expecting to be questioned on this. I actually don't even know, and if what he's saying is true, everything I believe isn't. What do I do? And you could see that thought, and they get to like fight or flight mode. Sometimes so there's only really three ways they react. It's sometimes people are knowledgeable, even if they're misled, and they'll respond with what they think is a fact. They'll start getting aggressive and defensive and start saying names to the person. You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a sexist, you're transphobic, whatever the situation, whatever ism is appropriate for the moment, or they literally like dodge it, run away. And it just it blows my mind. I'm like, wow, you didn't put any thought into the topic. Before you thought about it, you got out of your place of living, your apartment or your house. You drew a sign, you got dressed, you went all the way to the march, walked and yelled and chanted before you thought about it. And it always blows my mind. And then when a fact comes out, I always say if a fact, like an indisputable fact, not an opinion, but indisputable fact, like a statistic, bothers you, that's because you're living a lie. You know what I mean? Because that's the only reason why a fact should bother you. A fact doesn't care about your feelings, not that people all Ben Shapiro-ish, but like it doesn't give a fuck about what your emotions.
It is what it is.
It just is.
It is what it is.
So if that bothers you, then like obviously you have too much of an interest in one side prevailing in this argument. And that's the thing that drives me nuts. Like I literally got to the point last summer where I was driving around with a bullhorn in the city, like yelling at people. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Because like that's the point. I was like, is anybody thinking? Have you stopped and took a breath for 1 second and looked around?
All my rants last year was like, really? Like they literally tell you one piece of information and then they tell you something that competes with that piece of information and you believe both. And I'm like, but like, like my favorite, like the mask. Oh my God, the fucking mask, man. I'm like, do you remember a time where we just couldn't come out the house regardless if we had a mask on or not? Then somehow magically we needed these N95 masks with these filter, and then magically a t-shirt works. Like, what the fuck?
The bandana.
Like, and I'm like, so let me get this straight. Like, how is that logical in your mind? We literally spent time saying, oh, you got to have an N95 mask with a filter. That's the only thing that works. And then who decided that, nah, we good. Just put something over your face. There is no study.
I can take a napkin with a rubber band.
Yeah.
Or you ever see the guys with the clear plastic
Yeah,
ones?
yeah.
It's like we're just abiding by the rule,
right?
Not actually applying.
Oh, the plastic ones were just like they have the glass with the plastic
shield.
Yeah. When I'm like, so when you breathe, it goes right there, like
even in the mask. You ever see the guys like they'll go on they'll be like a ski mountain with the mask on, and you can breathe and you see the frost like
right.
Do that with the mask on, and you just see it like where it's actually going when you breathe. It's doing literally nothing.
Right.
So having a chain link fence
I remember when Trump came on TV. And we were in the midst of the N95 is the thing. And Trump was like, no, you just need a bandana. And if you get 2 bandanas, it works really well. So all the Democrats were like, that's stupid. Like, you need this kind of mask. And then I don't know what happened in 5 days, but all of a sudden bandanas was the thing, as long as you cover your face. And I'm just like, so y'all don't even remember what you said last week? Like, literally. Like, I mean, again, I respect people, I'll do the mask thing, but like the shit doesn't make any sense.
And it's like those dentist masks everyone pretty much wears,
right.
Like those 3M masks,
right.
No filter, nothing.
Right.
Those were designed and invented just for medical professionals, basically when they were working on an open wound, to not basically spit in you.
Right.
That's what it's all about. But yeah, it has nothing to do with aerosols.
Nope.
It doesn't prevent anything.
Nope.
It doesn't prevent. It prevents pretty much zero of you getting aerosols in you. It absorbs some of what you excrete, but it prevents you from nothing. So when people walk in somewhere and they're wearing a mask and they're using it in their mind to prevent them from getting something, I'm like, that's not even what it's for.
Hey, that's on the second page of Google. Nobody gonna look that up.
Second page.
It's on the second page of Google. Nobody gonna look that up.
Plastics and the fibers that you're breathing in from those masks.
Yeah, and then you're breathing in your own air. I like people at the gym wearing it.
Right.
That can't be healthy.
No,
it can't be.
My daughter plays basketball, and they have her wearing masks playing basketball
during the game.
During the fucking game,
dude, get the fuck out of here.
They have them wearing masks playing basketball during the game, and only one parent can come to the game. And you have to sit 6 feet apart. But yeah, we can bounce this ball together.
And you came in the same car.
Right. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like the airplane thing. Oh my God, I hate the airplane thing.
You watch the NBA games and the coaches are wearing a mask and then they go into the locker room, take it off, and hang out with the guys, and then it's like, yo, what are we doing here?
Right,
what are we doing?
Right. I'm like, so we're fine. We're okay. It make like the whole thing makes zero sense. And I'm like, I'm all about going with the group, but it has to be logic behind it.
Yeah.
None of this
Even
stuff makes sense.
Even if I disagree with the logic, at least be logically consistent.
Right.
And you can earn my respect.
Right.
I can't respect them as logically inconsistent because you're basing your argument on something and then contradicting your own logic. It's like, well, you don't even really believe this.
Right.
It just what it all goes back to, in my opinion, it's just about control and power. Like even like this, again, I hate to say the hot button words because
control, power, and ignorance.
Control and power and ignorance is what they thrive on.
Yes.
So
okay.
So the vaccine, right?
Yeah.
Again, another one of the situations that I really genuinely, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm gonna be fucking programmed and I'll end up fucking they'll have a 5G control to make me explode in 6 months. And Bill Gates will turn me into a robot where you can just control the ventriloquist. But I doubt it. What I really think it is that people try to go the extra layer of everything. Again, same exact parameters.
Right.
There's people on the left that are dumb enough to think that they actually care about your well-being and they're giving you vaccines because they want you to be safe. And people on the right who think that it's Bill Gates is trying to turn us all into microwave us with 5G technology, put nanochips in us. Both are ridiculous. The answer's usually in the middle. What I think personally is that it's money and power. It's not a hard leap to take to think that the number one now I think it's big tech, but for the last 40 years, the number one lobbyists on both sides of the aisle are pharmaceutical companies.
Yep.
So this mandatory, if it's not mandatory yet, it will be soon. And if it's not technically mandatory, it'll be so your life's so inconvenient, it has to be pretty much the thing. It's like by default mandatory. this vaccine rollout is going to be the most profitable medical endeavor in the history of the world.
Oh yeah.
Merck, fucking Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson, they're going to make $1 trillion. And they're probably going to perpetuate this every year with a new variant, every 6 months or years to get a refresh.
They're gonna keep
shot.
pumping the fear in you.
And they're making money on it.
Yeah.
And you can't even sue them if something happens.
Right.
So it's
That's the crazy part. You can't sue them either.
like it's safe, but you can't sue when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
So that's kind of contradictory. If you're so confident in your product, why can't I sue when something goes wrong? I don't understand that. How do you force something on somebody and give them no recourse if something goes wrong?
Right.
And people will literally fight you tooth and nail. I have a good friend of mine, Paul. Sorry, Paul, I love you, but like he's not thinking about this at all, and he'll fight me tooth and nail on their behalf as a pro-vaxxer. And like the two things don't make sense to me. One, how do you not see this is the most? They're making money, and they're not donating their profits.
Nope.
To help the business to put out of business. They're pocketing them and they're making literally going to make trillions of dollars on this all said and done. So and those got people that pay the people with money for their campaigns for making these rules.
Exactly.
It's pretty obvious give and take. But number two, it's similar to the mask situation. If you're vaccinated, why do you care if I am or not?
Right.
Well, so explain it to me.
But the thing is, that's the history of vaccinations. At no point I'm like, hey, yo, you got your flu shot? Like, no, I got mine, I'm good. Like, you never ask anybody they get their flu shot or any other vaccination.
And
as long as I got mine, I'm okay.
The Tuskegee experiment?
Right. Oh,
so don't get me started. The government hasn't purposely fucked with us before.
People they kind of got a track record.
Yeah. And so does Johnson and Johnson gave people cancer knowingly for decades with baby powder.
Oh, don't get me started. Yeah.
So like, but this time everybody okay.
They're okay.
It's like if Marlboro came out with a new smoking stick, but as they swore it didn't give you cancer, would you trust it?
Right.
But this time we're gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Right. Like, Joe, have you looked at anything the government's done in the last 100 years, 200 years, 300 years?
Oh, you trying to get people to read? People don't like to read. People don't like to read.
But I'll listen. I'll watch a video.
No, they don't like to do that.
Yo, let's just put everything aside of our own opinions, right?
Okay.
Try to be objective.
Right.
I'm now pro-vaccine.
Okay.
I took both my shots.
Yep.
Because I believe that is going to prevent me from getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
Although you can still get it. I'm really gonna do it.
He's trying so hard. I know he's trying to be so hard.
I have to do mental gymnastics.
Okay.
I have to keep my
Come on.
Also, okay.
Bring it around.
But I don't want to transmit it.
Okay.
But you can still transmit it afterwards.
Okay.
I want to stop being able to wear a mask. But you still got to wear a mask afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, well, besides all that point, right, now I have both my shots, so now I am, to whatever degree, safer than I was beforehand.
Got it.
I walk by T. He's an anti-vaxxer. T doesn't want to get his vaccine shot. So now he's at risk of getting it. But I'm vaccinated. Why does it matter to me if I got my shots what he does?
Right.
And I'm not saying this sarcastic. I'm asking Jenny because I feel like if this many people are for it, there has to be a perspective that I'm missing. But every time someone makes an argument for it, they self-defeat it. Like I said, it reduces, I do it because I don't want to give it. It's not about me, it's about giving it to other people. But they say that it actually doesn't prevent transmission at all. You can still host it and still give it. It just affects you less.
You know what, Johnny? I think you went too deep.
Why?
It's all about money and power.
But those people.
But wait, let me.
Okay.
Because I have to figure out what I'm gonna have to do to where I can go back and make my money without looking like a fucking idiot because I stayed in the house for 2-3 months before. So we're gonna ride this vaccine out and these masks and whatever else anybody else says.
That you get a jail free card?
Definitely get out of jail free card so I can go do whatever I want. That's really what I think it's about. Because you keep trying to apply logic and it's not logical. Like traveling in the air is not logical. It's not logical. It's really about the money and power. How can I get consumers to continue to spend their money? And the mask thing worked for a little while.
On my old views,
right.
But because I saying, hey, if you do this, now it's okay.
Right. That's where the mask thing came in.
And hopefully they won't think about it.
The mask thing only. The reason everyone, it's like currency. If everyone agrees that it's valuable, that's how society works. It's valuable. So everyone agreed that, you know what? If we wear masks, we can go outside. Because remember, first we just couldn't go outside. We're gonna fucking die if we went outside. But then it's like, all right, you can go to the grocery store and do things, but as long as you got on a mask. Then that translated to, okay, I can do whatever I want as long as I have a mask. Well, people still getting sick. Numbers still going up. We got a vaccine. So a vaccine means, oh, guess what? As a company, money and power, as long as you got a vaccine, you can do whatever you want.
Well, I know what's pretty interesting about that too is I think that they know that the virus has kind of ran its course.
Right.
And now they'll just give the vaccine credit.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Because
When
you don't
it
want
dies out this summer, thank God for that vaccine. But don't give Trump the credit for pushing it through.
Right.
It was impossible. When
Right.
he said it was going to be done by the end of the year,
Right.
you can say whatever you want about Trump. He did a lot of stupid shit, right?
Right.
But he said in the beginning of 2020, he was going to have it done before the end of the year, and everyone laughed at him.
Right.
Impossible.
Right.
He's an idiot.
Mhm.
And then it got rolled out, and now Fauci and Biden are taking credit for it.
Right.
Like, it's craziness.
Because you got to remember, with any, you said it before, whatever, how did you say it? It's cliche. Every incident, every
what
crisis-
Obama's advisor said, never let a good crisis go to waste.
never let a crisis go to waste. True. But a crisis has to have an end. And I always say from the beginning, how are you going to end this? When we got locked down, I'm like, something got to happen.
What's the exit strategy?
There's got to be exit strategy. And those guys are already thinking about it. And they were like, we're going to rock these masks out, and that'll get us going. But the vaccine's the exit strategy. Until there's a new variant. They're like, shit, it's a fucking new variant. This is just like the flu. It's regular.
They're
It's
contracting
the
Johnson Johnson for $2 trillion.
Yeah, but you know what? Just everybody get the vaccine, you're good. We're going to talk about something else. Because
Realistically, they will.
but let me tell you-
the topic. Everyone will forget about
right.
it.
No, not gun control.
Oh.
No, racism.
Oh.
Hey,
That's all gone.
racism.
What bothers you more?
Hold on.
Conversation.
Which by ooh, I'm gonna have to go with racism. And I'm gonna go as far as say because I'm black and I experience racism, but it's a close second with this fucking coronavirus shit. And think about the timing of George Floyd and the mask and everything opening up. When George Floyd happened, all of a sudden everybody can fucking go outside. Nobody put those two together. Think about it. Right when George Floyd happened, all of a sudden everything started getting real lax real fast because we wasn't talking about coronavirus for half a second. We were talking about George Floyd. Finally, something happened to Trump being coronavirus been on TV every fucking minute of the day. And racism beat a pandemic.
Now,
And then everybody started kind of going outside. And then as it died down a little bit, George Floyd died down, we kind of got back our focus on coronavirus. And then we went
the vaccine.
right.
So I think it's.
I think if George Floyd didn't happen, it would have took longer for the whole pandemic thing to do what it did. We needed something to focus. Remember, people can't pay attention to too many things at once.
Yeah.
So once George Floyd happened, you didn't see pandemic. People outside marching the street. Like, where your mask at?
And they didn't care.
They didn't care because
Yeah, literally scientists saying this supersedes the need for masks. And you're like, what?
what? Right.
Well, excuse me.
Because people can't concentrate on shit. They only concentrate on a couple things.
I just hate when fucking people just they're so engulfed in their team ideology that they'll do that mental gymnastics and you'll see very intelligent people just throw intelligence to the wind and make these ridiculous
Right.
excuses for why it's acceptable for one type of people to do something and someone else
Right.
to be completely different.
Yep.
Like it goes to like. So the most basic example, and it's not the best analogy, but it's just a loose example. It's like January 6th when those people went to the Capitol,
Yeah.
right? Ridiculous what happened. Fucking when you have that many fucking angry people in one place, that's what Trump fucked up. Like people saying he incited insurrection. No one was overthrowing the election that day. Trump's a fucking idiot for not thinking ahead to say if that many fucking angry people go to one place, something bad could happen.
Something bad.
That was the
Yep.
fuck up, right?
Simple.
So simple. Like
Yeah.
the mob mentality kicks in, and I said most of those fucking people were like middle-aged fucking like simple-minded people taking pictures.
Yeah.
There were a few people that got violent and rowdy.
Right.
All the stats from that day got incredibly skewed, and if you look back at the reporting and,
Right.
and actually research it, it was all bullshit. Like 5 people died. Well, if you look back, like a Capitol guard got beat death with a fire extinguisher.
Right.
It was bullshit.
Right.
That actually didn't happen.
Right.
They just had to rescind that story, but the traction is this big after the front page article.
Right.
The only real death of violence was an unarmed woman getting shot by Capitol Police.
Right.
The other deaths were someone died from a reaction to pepper spray. A cop died of a heart attack. One of the cops who was involved in there committed suicide later that day. and they made it seem like 5 people got slaughtered.
Hey man,
Now,
I can't be on your podcast anymore because you read too much, and you sound like you read about this
I'm
and stuff.
clearly a bigot.
And you know what? Like people don't be reading.
So what's interesting is that, and I have to contribute this to so it was very easy for the left wing media to seize an opportunity to call them like white supremacists and fucking racists and any ists and that you could throw on that shit. Where, I mean, there were probably some fucking dirtbags in that group.
Yeah.
But most of the people were just angry Trump supporters who felt unheard and felt like they got slighted, and they went and like walked into an open door and were like, they were taking pictures. Like they made it seem like it was the most. They compared it to 9/11. Which is so gross and disrespectful to the victim of 9/11. Now, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, a guy drove into the barrier at the Capitol Police thing and killed the cop.
Yep.
And then it didn't make the news at all.
Yeah. I mean,
it was just buried instantly. And I can't help but think that it just didn't fit the narrative. And to me, it's just such a gross example of how they use. And so, like I always say too, like, and listen, white people are the least affected by racism in the entire world, right? But what I will say is the one time they do get slighted is in media headlines. So I always say is if the race of the perp in whatever situation it is isn't named in the headline, that means he wasn't white. And what happens is a very, very simple sleight of hand they do, but it fucks with people. So the best analogy I have is like this, right? So you see headlines, murder happens, kidnapping happens, whatever happens, and you just think of a horrible event. But then one event happens where the race of the person, the monster, and don't think I'm excusing what happens. Whenever the let's just say the theoretical situation is, they're a piece of shit, no matter what color he is in this, all these headlines. Right. But when it happens to be a white guy, especially with some law enforcement, and the victim is a minority, that is in the headline now. Right. White officer shoots unarmed black man. Right. It'll be front and center.
Not John. Not John shot Tom.
Yeah. It's not man killed. It's black man killed by a white man. Right. So now you read the newspaper every day, and you've passed 100 of those stories, but paid no mind to it because there was no race in there. Right. But now that one time the race is involved, because now
you have buy-in. You're like, I'm this race.
Every time the race is involved, that's the equation. Right. So the programs, you think that's happening more than it is disproportionately, whatever says the statistics. And my analogy I use is like, okay, if every car accident that happened in Nassau County, right, there's probably 100 a day in Nassau County. But if only when red cars got into accidents, it made the news, right? And you just saw, like, well, every couple of days, red car wrecks, kills 2 people. Red car hits a tree, explodes. Red car gets caught speeding 100 miles an hour. And that's all you keep seeing. 3 weeks in, you'd be like, what the fuck's up with these red cars? Like, something's up with these red cars. Yeah. But we realized you didn't realize that there was 100 accidents with white cars, black cars, silver cars, and blue cars in between. They just didn't, A, put it in the news, and B, highlight the color of the car because it's irrelevant to the greater story here. Like, unless that situation that happened with a murder was directly because of race, if the guy screamed, fuck you, white guy, or fuck you, black dude, and then shot him, it's really irrelevant to the greater story. Right. It was a murder. Right.
But how else are you going to get them to click on the story?
But and understood. That's their marketing, right?
That's their marketing.
Their business model. Yeah. But like, you have to be, as a consumer, smart enough to identify that. So I like planting that seed ahead of time so people can see it. And then when it happens, they notice. Right. Because if you're unsuspecting, it's easy to get got like that. But people need to think like ahead of time and be like, okay, like man killed, like let's research who that was. Like, and I said, oh, so it's a white guy that got killed. Right. No one cares. Right. You know, it's almost like the opposite of what happened in the 90s. Yeah. They would highlight racial incidents when a black person did something wrong. Right. Black people look bad. And super predators, and they make it like
all these black people are bad. It's crazy. Like, oh my God, because that's the only thing they put out there.
Exactly. And now it's almost flipped. Right. As far as the news goes. Right. And it's just it really fucking bothers me because that has a lot of people like embarrassed to be white. You have people like denouncing their whitehood, apologizing, things they have nothing to do with. I'm like, dude, it's okay to be white. Just don't be a dick. Right. Be a good person.
Can we make that on the bottom? It's okay to be white, but don't be a dick. I want a t-shirt with that shit.
I'm not apologizing for anything I didn't do.
Right.
Like, you know, people and people like to throw like in a situation too, like it's uncomfortable, and I understand that. Like with a black and white, when they make a divide like that, right? And then slavery gets talked about all the time. Like, listen, like my family came here from a boat in Italy. Right. Like. And we were in the mountains of Sicily for hundreds of years before that, and in Ireland. Like, we never owned slaves.
Right.
No one in my family lineage ever did.
Right.
Never
Right.
happened.
Never. Right.
Like, if anything, my Irish fucking descendants probably were slaves.
Right.
So, like, I can't feel guilty for something that happened that had nothing to do with me.
Right.
Like, if there's an inequity that's going on right now, if inequality going on, I'll stand with you and fight if whatever the cause is, to be fair.
Right.
But I can't get. It's like you're not responsible for the sins of your father. It's like one of the basic principles of this country.
Right.
That should apply to everybody.
Right.
And I just hate that feeling.
It's so
when I feel
funny.
like I'm being attacked
So like,
from my race.
I'm gonna definitely lose some followers here because like, first of all, you're 100% right. You know, and as a black person that's experienced robust prejudice and racism,
I want to hear about.
you know, but at the same time, as much as I experience on a weekly basis,
Really?
I don't run around saying white guy bad, like, because my mind is expanded to the point that I understand that all white people can't fall in the category of
They're so diverse.
white people, because white people can fall in the category of
Millions of subcategories.
millions of categories, you know, like you said, you know, Irish or whatever. It doesn't matter, because, and it's so funny because it goes back to the ignorance part, because same thing with black people. People see like, oh, you're black. And I'm like, that black, perfect example, I was in the military. I was in Paris, and they were like, a black guy and a black guy, until I said, hey, what's up? Oh, you're American black guy. That guy says, what's up? He's the African black guy. They treat us different because American black guys get treated different from African black guys. And
in Paris.
In Paris.
Why,
Because
in what way?
every way.
They put you above?
Yeah.
Okay.
100% above. Like,
Interesting.
it's like I might as well be white in Paris.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they're African and they treat it's crazy. But that happens here on the reverse side. And and all cultures do it. It's not like, you know, when no one's immune. You know, it's like,
Even within the culture itself.
Yeah, within the culture.
Like, white people have white trash and they have the wasps on top. You know what I mean? Like,
Black people, we have this inside of the black culture, and I'm using super generic terms, light skin versus dark skin.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Interesting.
Like, it's really
something
a
that
thing.
me and him probably wouldn't
Yeah,
understand.
it's like, you know, like you got black Twitter, there's light skin and there's dark skin, and don't let us go battling. Now, when it's time to come together and fight something, we'll go that way. But internally, it's a whole thing. It's like, it's crazy. But my thing is, we can't, as black people, look at all white people and be like, you know, kind of have that whatever prejudice that we have or preconceived notion that we have.
Oh, you're doing exactly what you're preaching against.
Because you're doing exactly what you're preaching against. It's like I always use the white woman in the elevator. The white woman gets in the elevator and she's like, clutches the purse because the black guy. I'm like, what? What are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? But it goes both ways. You can't be the black guy in the elevator and the white guy get on and you look at him like, look at this white guy, you know, white privilege. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't do that, because now you're a hypocrite of what you're doing.
And I think it's also important to remember and to realize, people don't want to acknowledge this, that some of those situations are real. And let me explain what that means. So it goes both ways also. Like, people only have their experiences. And as a white kid who played a lot of black dominated sports, I played a lot of basketball, there is definitely an attitude within that community where the white guy doesn't get the respect up front. You have to earn it.
You have to earn it.
If I go to a basketball court and I'm like in one of, you know, let's say I'm in a different neighborhood, in a black majority neighborhood, and I hop on the basketball court, when they're picking teams, I'm getting picked last.
Yeah.
Fine. I know this is a microcosm, and it's not. It's almost a silly comparison. But I want to explain what I mean.
No, it's a perfect example. But go ahead.
And like, so growing up, I dealt with that a lot, where I would get automatically assumed to be a pussy and automatically assumed to not be good,
Right.
or and I had to earn that,
Right.
and I learned that early, and a lot of the black kids that I would play against would feed off that energy, and because most of the time it was true. And they're right. Like, when if I played in my high school team was mostly white, we played against the mostly black school.
Yeah.
The kids on my team would be shitting themselves.
Yeah.
and the kids we played against, we played up like talking shit, because everybody they're talking like they're all pussy. When they get against me, it's not gonna be the case.
Right.
I'm gonna play against you. I'm playing harder against those teams.
Right.
I got something to prove now.
But then
I'm not one of them.
but-
Not my team.
yeah,
is.
you're not
You know what I
your
mean?
team, yeah.
But like you can't tell me that that when you're out in a social situation or an athletic situation, that the black kids that were playing against didn't look down on the white people. That happened. It was real. I know that for 100% fact. I saw it. Anybody that plays sports knows that if they're being real. And I think that what happens with a lot of people, it's not just ignorance. People haven't been around enough people that are different than them to understand. And what I see is like, so that white lady in the elevator, she might not be a bad person, but she might not have enough fucking exposure to the world. She's ignorant. She's ignorant. And the only times that she has interactions or sees a black culture may be bad representations of what black people are actually
Right.
like. So it's like, you know, is that right of her? Absolutely not. But it's not evil, it's ignorance.
Right.
And that brings me back to the story that you told me that blew my fucking mind. I think really puts a bow on the whole thing is your Montana story.
Yeah.
And I'd love you to tell that story.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
could.
So the not even a build up. So basically I met a guy that never met a black person in real
But
life.
paint the picture of where you are.
Okay,
And what
so
you're in.
yeah. So I decided on a whim to drive my chrome BMW, which is, I mean, if you put a picture like bam, chrome BMW from DC to LA. All right. And
Joey, can you pull up Instagram and show his you got it's
you
M4.
actually just put chrome BMW, it's probably gonna
It's
just
M4,
pop.
right?
It's the M4.
Yeah,
Chrome
no,
M4.
type in BMW Chrome M4, it'll probably come up.
Yeah, it'll come up.
Not
Yeah,
many of those.
Yeah. So anyway, I drove across the United States, but had a great time. One of the best learning experiences because I've encountered so many different people. And the car, as you'll see in a minute, is the piece. So people like, you can hate it or love it, but you got to look at it. Like, you got to be like, oh my God.
Silver Chrome, not Gold
Yeah,
Chrome.
not Gold Chrome. Just type at Chrome M4 and I'm sure it'll pop up. But anyway, driving through Montana, right? Stop at a gas station, literally middle of nowhere. There was a gas station. I don't even know what kind of gas station, but it was like, it had 2 pumps, like straight out of a movie somewhere.
Like tumbleweeds rolling by.
Yeah, tumbleweeds rolling by. It was off the highway. I get out, I pump, hit the gas, I go to use the bathroom, come back, and these guys in the pickup truck are like, yo, hey, that's it. So they're like, hey, you know, and they just start talking to me and engage and stuff like that, asking about the car. So the dude,
I mean, look at this fucking thing.
yeah,
You drive past that thing, you're like, what the fuck?
right. So that's not it, but looks similar. But no, so the guy, after talking for about 5 minutes, he was like, wow, like he asked me all the questions, like, are you a rapper? Like all these different, you know, and I'm just all the stereotypical questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Are you a ball player,
Yeah.
sir?
And I'm like, I'm a doctor. Like,
What team do you
doctor?
play
Like, what?
for?
You know, it was like, he was like, it blew his, everything I said, his eyes got bigger and bigger. Like,
Every preconceived notion of black person got destroyed.
right, immediately. And he was just like, yo, so at the end of our conversation, he thanked me. He was like, hey, thanks for stopping to talk to me. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no problem, talk to everybody. And he's like, you're the first black person I've seen in real life. And I was like, what? This was 2018. This is 2018. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, we live, you know, like, da-da-da, and I never come out this far close to the highway. And I'm just like, so what do you mean, like, like you never seen a black? I need to
Clarification
understand.
at this point,
Right.
yeah.
He's like, no, I've never met or seen a black person. And I was just
He's
like,
an older guy, too.
yeah, he was like
toddler you're
yeah,
talking to.
No, he was like 27 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, dumbfounded. Like, so basically, every preconceived notion he had about black people was from TV or something somebody told him. And I'm like, in 2018, to think that there's people out there
A lot of them, probably.
that haven't really had an interaction with anybody outside of their own race is freaking amazing. But then that goes to the point of the exposure and the experience that you live in your life
Everything.
dictates what you really think.
Everything.
And I couldn't be mad at him for
Yeah.
asking me those questions because all the information and knowledge he had of black people
It's from media.
is from media.
Yeah. And I mean, and you're also so blessed to have world traveler experience.
Right.
So you have a really, you know, top 1% life experience.
Right.
As far as diversity
Right.
of exposure to culture.
Right.
And people don't have that. People aren't privileged to have enough to do that or venture out enough to do that. And they fall on the limited knowledge that they have access to.
Right.
And it's amazing. I think it goes in all directions. I think that people have preconceived notions and they categorize because it's just easier, right? To categorize
easy.
people,
Yeah.
put people in a bucket.
Right.
Black people like this, Asian people like that,
Right.
fucking rich people like this, you know, Republicans are like
Right.
that. It's just easier to put
Right.
everybody in a nice little bucket and not have to think about it anymore because
Right.
people are infinitely complex.
Right.
And everybody's an individual
Right.
and to an extent, and there's a million variables.
But it goes back to the laziness thing. People are like, it's just lazy. It's just like, you
It's
know
easier
what?
to just
Yeah.
say, no, they're like that.
Yeah. And no one has the desire, critical thinking skills to be like, hey, let's learn about this guy. Like, hey, maybe this guy is different. You know what I'm saying? But then you have people like me, I'm not gonna lie, I use it to my advantage. Like, depending on what I wear, being a black guy with wherever I am, I can manipulate a situation. You know, I can if
You
I
know
walk
people are perceiving you.
right because I know when I walk in. Like for example, if I drive my Rolls Royce up
you're
and
in
I wear a suit,
Yeah.
immediately everybody's like, "Hey, how you doing? Dr. Augurson? Oh, this is great." If I drive the same car and wear
Or in a Chrome M4
no, same car, change my clothes in a sweatsuit. Now I'm an athlete.
Mm.
And they don't even want to talk to me because obviously I bought this car because I'm an athlete. Not because just to change the clothes.
And for the record, you have multiple Rolls Royces.
Yeah.
I put that out there. I'm just saying, like, you know, you got, you know, there's no regular, as Wade would say.
That's Wade would say, yeah. But it's amazing of the notion you get. I drove my Rolls Royce to LA. I like literally got in the car and I drove, and like I would do shit like I would stop at Sonic and sit in the back. You know, Rolls Royce has the trays, and I'd be like eating a hot dog, like, and people looking at me like, what the fuck is this guy?
He's not a driver.
He's in the back by himself eating a fucking hot dog. Like, right, you know. And like you said, I destroyed so many people's notions about things by just doing what I wanted to do. But at the same time, you know, I look at it as an education for people because I'm like, that's not how everything is.
Yeah,
you know,
and I feel the same way as far as white people.
Yeah,
people will try to say to me like, you don't understand what it's like to get pulled over and fuck with by cops. Excuse me, sir.
Right.
Driving at
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you think when a cop pulls me over in a Rolls Royce and sees me, like how I am right now, just how I guess every day.
Yeah.
I'm in sweatpants, I'm in that hoodie, I'm tattooed. Like, I'm not the fucking guy with the sweater tied around in his vest. I don't have a college education. I don't talk super proper. Like, I'm respectful. Don't get me wrong, I'm no dummy. But like, they're not happy to see me hanging out the window. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I understand what it's like to have the plight of a minority in some situation. Right. But I understand what it's like the cops not like you. Believe me. Right. Like they are not treating me like they treat my dad. Right. You know what I mean? And I think I've disproven a lot of things. Same thing. Like, I'll come into a lot of those situations where I've been in the music industry, where I've been in sports, and people immediately just assume like, fucking white guy, like he just got, you know, he's gonna be a certain way, and then they're like, I'm putting them up on game, and they're like, oh, still the fuck is this marketing?
You know what's amazing to me about that, like just using straight black and white. I'm not gonna talk about other ethnicities or anything, but just the black and white thing, like you used in the basketball example. It's like, white guy can't play.
White man can't jump.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, white guy comes out, can play. Now that doesn't mean all white guys can play. You're okay. You just got the black people stamp. You're good.
I'm invited to the cookout.
You're invited to the cookout. Yeah. And you know what pisses me off about that is I have a lot of people, like white guys in my life, that are like, oh, they got the stamp. They're good. This is the imaginary black stamp. You know, it's like you get the black stamp, you're good. But you got to explain it though, because there's like rules to the black stamp. You can't just like go out and just like wear your black. Yeah, you can't wear your black stamp. You gotta like have, it's like when you get your permit to drive. You gotta have the black guy with you so you can be like, and then we do
otherwise you gotta reprove it every time.
We do and you know, black people, you know, I know we got our head nod. We got and then when that happens, oh, he good. Don't gotta say nothing. We already know he good. If he not, we be like, nah, you know. But it pissed me off, like when we use like the word the popularization of the word nigga. So we say nigga, and it's like me, because I'm a little older, when you hear someone say it, you kind of cringe. But now, in today's world, it's on every fucking rap song and it's loose. I'm still cringing and everybody's like, cool. And I'm looking like, so who gave this white guy the black stamp that he can say it? Because before, there was never a black stamp to be okay to say that word. And it's like, it's this weird, as the paradigm shifts.
It's uncomfortable.
It's really, but it's weird because now it's got to the point where I'm the only one uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, so
and everybody else is like, "What's wrong with you, T? He cool." I'm like, "Well, what?"
So that's a weird thing, right? So like,
Isn't that weird?
I won't use that word in passing just because I don't. There's not a need to.
Right.
But like, I won't pretend like I haven't used that word.
Right.
Like, it's almost like something that they hang over people's head. Like, if ever, it doesn't have to be. That's the weird thing, right? And I understand your standpoint on it, and like not being okay with it, and completely understandable. But there has to be some kind of like intent has to matter, right?
Intent, yeah.
I wouldn't in public say that, but if I'm singing along with a song on my own, I should be able to say what the fuck I want, right? If I'm consuming music I'm paying for, I should be able to say what the fuck I want. you have to use judgment on when you do that.
You got it.
Where
Right.
you know what I'm saying,
Right.
and I think I'm perfectly capable of doing that.
Yeah.
But like, if a recording ever came out of me singing along to a Moneybagg Yo song,
Yeah.
by myself,
Yeah.
in my car driving,
Right.
and I'm saying that word, it can be used to fucking destroy whatever career I have going.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
If I'm using it in a derogatory sense and something, then it could be interchanged with any word. If you're using it, it's the intent that matters to me.
Right.
But it's this weird scenario now where it's like both sides again want to deny the reality of the situation. If you don't know white people who use the N-word but aren't the slightest bit racist, you haven't been outside enough.
Exactly.
If you don't know white people that still use the N-word in a racist way,
You haven't been
you also haven't been outside
Right,
enough.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not so black and white, black and white. Like there's a gray area there, and everyone has to use their own judgment. But then like it gets weird too, because like I know a ton of Arab and Spanish kids that use the word,
Oh my
especially when
God.
we're out at clubs and stuff, and no one will blink an eye.
Oh,
No one will bat an
man.
eye.
Don't give me.
And it's
get
like,
me-
where's the cutoff? Like
I was-
Takashi says it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I was-
I'm darker than him.
No.
When I go to the beach, I'm darker than him.
I'm sorry.
motherfucker.
Let me go for the record. Let me go. The cutoff is no one. There you go. Let me just like no one. There you go. Because if you did, we don't got no problems. Like I hate the gray because it's just like when we talk about other topics. It's like if I do this in New York versus Florida versus Brazil versus Canada, there's different things that can happen.
Yeah.
And different reactions. I'm from
And severe
Louisiana.
reactions.
Right. I'm from Louisiana. And you know,
Real racism down there,
in
sure.
Louisiana, if you're not black and you say nigga, you should get knocked out within 2 seconds. And if you don't, everyone around you, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
So move me out of Louisiana, put me in DC, and I'm looking like somebody say the word. I'm like, yo, so, because in Louisiana, there is no, you don't see a lot of, you know, Hispanic people or a lot of Middle Eastern people in Louisiana. So when I started hearing people say it, I was like, so wait, like,
What are the rules here?
what's the rules? I had somebody to break it down to me, like, yo, you know, again, years ago, I was
Anybody
ignorant.
white can say
Yeah,
that's what it goes down to.
because I'm like, oh, you know, just because there's people from Caribbean, they're black, and it's a thing, and it's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm from Louisiana. In Louisiana, there's black people, and there's white people, and there's a few Asian people. That's it. That's what's going on in Louisiana.
So the most complicated it gets is with Puerto Ricans.
Oh, God.
Because Puerto Ricans, and my girl's Puerto Rican, so fuck you who's trying to make this a race thing. I
Yeah, no.
do what the fuck I want. I like all races.
Yeah.
But Puerto Ricans can be like super Hispanic looking.
Yep.
And they can be super white looking. Like,
Yeah.
even if my girl's Russian, because
Yeah.
she's part Irish too,
Right.
and German. But like, you know, there's Puerto Ricans who will be, and like I said, I'm Sicilian, so I get super dark in the summertime.
Right.
Like, I go out in the sun for a day, and I come back, and I'm like,
Right.
I look like I'm light skinned black. Like, I'm
Yeah.
really, really fucking dark.
You like the new Jesus.
So I'll see Puerto Rican kids who are super white looking and dropping that word, and like if someone calls them, I'm Puerto Rican. It's like, oh, that's like the out. Like
Is that the out?
I'm confused with the rules myself, and like my whole thing is like, and again, take my opinion with a grain of salt because I'm white, so my opinion on it means very little. But from an outside perspective, the problem that I have is I think that in like almost against the purpose of why people are mad about the word, to give it too much power.
Right.
So let me explain that. I'm not saying like let people disrespect you. That's
Right.
never the case. Because
Right.
you can call me a bitch with the same enunciation and the same intent, and I'll be just as mad
Yeah,
as whatever
right.
the word is. It's like the
Right,
intent, right?
right.
But the word, if it's not meant maliciously and it's used in whatever context, and it's not even involving you, it seems to be the only word that gets like excused as like a detonate on sight button. Like if someone's on a train, right, and they're not even talking to you. It's let's just say it's two white people arguing with each other, and a black guy sitting next to him, and one of the white guys in an argument with the other white guy calls that guy an N-word. That black guy gets up and punches the white kid in the face, right? That gets played on social media. People clap. He deserves it. I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
That word can't have that much power, and it can't be a get out of jail free card for people because people will abuse that.
Right.
Right? You like that has nothing to do with you.
Right.
He's not talking to you.
Right.
Punching him in the face is still assault.
Right.
Like I saw some jerk off, and I like people getting punched in the face. They deserve it. So don't get me wrong.
Right.
But like I watched a march that was going on, and I think it was Oregon, and it was some fucking right wing fucking loser, and he was like a 130-pound white kid. Was never mad out of his basement, but he had a swastika
Right.
armband on, and he's marching one of those right wing extreme groups.
Yeah.
And he's walking through the streets, and a larger black guy confronts him. And first off, like, I mean, I guess Nazis hate everybody, but like their gripe was really with the Jews. I don't think there were many black people in Germany.
Right.
So whatever, they gets kind of conflated. But besides the point.
Right.
They're hateful, right?
Yeah.
But like the kid's sitting there, and he's woke up, and a black guy sees him and like confronts him. They go face to face. And the white guy immediately starts like cowering, going, no. And the black guy lays him the fuck out, and the kid goes down. And it's hard to feel bad for someone who's a self-proclaimed neo-Nazi, right? But you're like, that's not excused because somebody has a thing on them or whatever, or says a word. Like, even like last week, there was a soccer game in Europe where apparently the racial slur was used from one team to another against a black guy in a team, and the entire team walked out, and everybody was clapping for it. And I'm like, I get why that would make you happy, like a solidarity, but it just comes across as weakness to me. Like it's like you're giving that guy so much power. At the end of the day, language is noise, right? It's vibrations with your mouth. So you're giving that much power to a noise that somebody's making to have control over your emotions.
Right.
Like you need to be able to control. Like there shouldn't be a magic word that I know I can walk into any neighborhood in the country and say and dictate a reaction from everybody in that room.
So
you're giving that person too much power.
First, I 100% agree with you. And as I'm listening to you, I think I finally found a point that me or you are we're off centered on.
Okay, and I understand. Before I preface it by saying,
and I know.
I don't understand what it's like. And the word used against me, so I understand why I could be in a blind spot.
So I'm gonna before I explain, I'm gonna use an example.
Okay.
If I got on my Instagram and I said "fuck Jesus," pause. No matter what I say after that, that's not okay. Correct.
But if a guy punched you in the face for it, I have a problem with it.
Right. But no, I'm not saying no. I think you're gonna stay true to what you're saying. But I'm saying I want to use that example as a power over words. Okay. Like me saying that, it doesn't matter what I say next. There's gonna be a whole lot of Christians. I'm like, fuck Jesus, I love him, and they're like, nah, you can't say that though. You can't. No, there's not. We're not gonna say it like that.
The only reason I'll push back on that though is because Jesus is a person, it's an individual.
Right.
Like if you said,
okay, I know where you're going, but like the power over that word. Which, first of all, I'm going to say it again. I agree. We shouldn't give that much power to a single word, but it's the things you feel from it that gives it the power. So going back to my story,
the emotion of
right?
It's
like going back to me saying that I experience racism on a weekly basis. It's like that word is a trigger for that. Now, right or wrong or indifferent, and it shouldn't be. I shouldn't let something have so much power over me, but it's the word that triggers the experience.
Understood.
You know what I'm saying?
But I don't think you would take it differently if someone walked in and said, fuck you, and dropped that word, as opposed to you overheard someone joking with their friend and saying it out of context.
But again, that's 100% correct.
You still get mad at both, I'm sure.
That's 100% correct for me. Mm-hmm. But we got to go back to those people we're talking about, and people are going to be pissed because I'm calling people ignorant. But those ignorant people that don't research shit, they're not have enough critical thinking skills to say, I don't like that word, but that has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to react. Their critical thinking skills are, what? You know.
But do you think that reaction comes mostly in part because they know that in the eyes of the public, they'll be deemed justified no matter the reaction?
No.
Really?
I don't think it comes. I think it comes from the pain of the word.
I think it has a part of it.
But I don't think when that happens, I 100% don't think that they're like, it's going to be okay because everybody's going to think that's okay. I don't think.
I don't understand.
When you said that their action is going to be justified by the public because of the word, I don't think that that's a thought. I don't think that they're like, if I punch this guy in the mouth, everybody's going to think it's okay.
Well, not that they're taking into account everybody's reaction, but in their head, they're going to be justified.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can go with that.
Even if it's not being used at them directly,
right?
Which I don't think is correct,
right?
Like it's almost like it goes back to like almost like a free speech thing. And again, it's so easy to take. Like we're working this out on the fly.
Right.
So it's easy to take a sound bite out of this and take it and run with it.
Right.
But I want people to understand. I haven't thought this all the way through.
Right.
I'm bouncing it off of you.
Right.
Develop
no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Develop our ideas here.
I'm with you.
But if it's being used not towards you. And not like you're standing up for somebody else. Like it's not like he's shouting down some other black guy by using that word and you're standing up for him, because that would also be justified in my opinion. But if he's using it, like I said, let's just say it's two white 22-year-old kids who are just engulfed in that culture where like that's what they think
Right,
is
right,
cool.
right.
They're engulfed in, let's say, hip hop, and
Right.
and he's joking around and he's laughing and he says shut up, and we're like
Right.
joking around with his boy, but completely endearing and like there's
Right.
no negativity at all in that conversation.
Right. No, I'm with you.
And you overhear it,
Right.
like that is not justification for you to go over and physically assault somebody.
Right. I'm agreeing with you. That's
But
not.
if we're on World Star,
Right.
and we're on the train in New York City subway, and a video gets played of that happening,
Right.
and then the dude lays out the white kid, the
Everybody-
comment section is "You deserve it, you
Right,
deserve it,"
right,
yeah,
right,
cheering.
right.
And I don't think that people think that through. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's kind of like it's like an all bets are off card.
Right. That's why I said in the beginning, no one should say it.
And
because
nobody-
if no one says it, we won't have these gray areas where those things are happening.
Agreed.
That's my stance because I'm just like, it's too much. And then
Or
you
only
have-
care when the intent's bad.
right. The litany of the history of the word, certain people can't explain. Like if you said that around my dad,
Oh, I'm sure that
the
generation.
anger
Yeah.
that he's gonna feel versus, and I feel some of that versus if my son hears it, he's not gonna feel as much as, and it goes like
100%.
that.
There's
Right.
such a dark, ugly
right.
history,
So
that
it's
word.
like, in order to mitigate that, let's just not use it at all.
And
But
I'm-
that's not what happens.
And I'm
you know
sure
what
that
I'm saying?
that's part of my blind
Right.
spot too, is that not just beyond myself, there's nobody in my family who has that feeling with that word and it hurts like that. There is no dark history in my family. So like that prevents me from kind of understanding the pain that word can cause.
Right.
And I
Because
understand
like when I hear it, it reminds me of the racism that I experienced. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it
and the
pisses me
deeper
off.
one of your answers had to deal
Right,
with.
right. And it's just like, you know what? You know, that experience that I had at the store the other day, you know what I'm saying? No, I got a good one for you. So what's today?
Saturday.
Saturday. Thursday, I think. Yes. Thursday, I flew to Florida on a private jet for whatever to have a meeting.
Mhm.
Okay. I show up in the FBO with Chick-fil-A in my hand, you know what I'm saying? Doing my thing, you know, I'm dressed how I'm dressed now and stuff like
Chick-fil-A is
that.
the kicker. I love it.
I'm looking for the pilot, you know, because I'm like, hell, I'm here, I'm ready to go. What's up? You know, as soon as I get in there, they were like, the guy comes up, white guy, whatever. Hey, thank you. And I was like, oh, appreciate it. In my mind, he's helping me because I had like 2 Chick-fil-A bags and a drink and stuff. And I'm like, oh, appreciate you, bro. Yeah. I'm like, told him to tell number of the plane, bet. And I was waiting.
He's an employee of at the hangar or like at the.
And yeah, he's the employee. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, here. And I'm like, okay, where's the pilot? He's like, well, he's over there. What do you need? I'm like, oh, give him my ID so we can get this shit moving. Like, I gotta go. I need to hurry up. He's like, oh, okay, that's weird. Like, and I'm like, bro, what's the problem? And he's like, what? Just like, so he takes my food. And I'm thinking again, in my naive mind, he's taking my food to the plane, which, all right, whatever. And I go talk to the pilot. And the pilot was like, what do you need? I'm like, what do you need? I'm T. He's like, okay. What do you need? I'm like, bro, I'm the PAX. He's like, what? You the PAX? He pulls out his phone real fast, like, oh, you're T. Oh, hey. And the guy's like, oh, shit. Like, I literally hear him say, oh, shit. And then that's when I realized, because I'm
Now they
naive.
adjust how they talk to you.
Right. Because they were like, oh, hey, Dr. Augurson,
Now
how are you
give you
doing?
the respect you deserve.
Right. And I'm like, you should have, when I walked in, you should have treated me like anybody else.
Yeah.
But because I'm black and dressed in sweats, I'm not the PAX. I'm the Chick-fil-A Uber driver, I guess. Whatever they thought, dropping off food
Yeah.
for this plane.
Understood.
Soon as it switched, I'm oh, now everybody's like catering to me and grabbing my stuff and what? Hey, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 oh, blah, blah. And,
Now we're nice people.
Right. And I'm funny. I'm like, oh, y'all thought I was the Uber driver, huh? I tell you, so because that's me. I make jokes, and I'm like, oh, so now I'm okay. Now, the whole time, now they're like super like, the soft
you
gloves
need
on.
their-
Like,
yeah.
and like, hey, it was sorry. But because then I'm like, why is that? And people were like, oh, T, it's not because you're black. Maybe because how you dress. No, it's funny because I was black.
It's both.
I was
It's
a
for sure
black guy, came in here with some sweats on. Obviously, I'm not flying private.
For sure, it's both.
You know what I'm saying? And you're right. Because if I was a black guy with a suit, they would have been like, they would have paused.
They would have asked.
Because I've been the black guy in the
They
suit.
would've asked.
Yeah, but I've seen it. I've seen it 100 times. Black guy in a suit. What can I do for you, sir? All right, what are you here for?
You want to make sure you're not the limo driver, or make sure you're the
Right.
passenger.
White guy with a suit.
Automatically assumed.
What tail number are you flying on today, sir?
Yeah. So okay.
Like,
So,
you know, so let me,
that's something
the finish my point
Yeah.
is when people say that nigga, that reminds me of that. And it reminds me of all the other instances that I've had that month or that year of that. And it makes me angry.
Yeah.
And it's like, because like you try to play it off, you try to understand and be like society, blah, blah, blah. But then I don't want to give that word power, but then it reminds me that, fuck, you know, I have to watch
still
how
real.
and it's like, it's a reminder. And and again, I'm agreeing with you about you shouldn't give that stuff power, but like that hurts.
That's why it's hard.
That's why. And then,
Understood.
and it just makes it difficult.
Understood, for sure. And that's one of those things where I think people overestimate their ability to empathize with a situation that they haven't actually lived through. So like, and I'll criticize myself the same way, because I'm a very, as an overarching criticism to anybody in the country, not just black people, it's like,
Right.
I'm gonna pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of person. Like,
Right.
like I believe in self, and you help yourself. Like, the government's not here for you. No one's gonna save you, no matter what color you are. Do it for yourself, and you're capable. Right.
I agree.
But at the same time, there's no denying that the experiences of people in this country vary greatly from person to person, and that race is one of those factors. I think that there's two major, again, like I always try to find, the whole thing with a fresh perspective is trying to find the middle ground. That's always my goal in every situation.
Right.
I've been blind and partisan in so many situations before. As a kid, ignorant, young, uneducated, whatever it was, and usually 99% of the time, answers in the middle, right? So I feel like there's one school of thinking that thinks that race is literally irrelevant. I think that's foolish to think that it's not a part.
Right.
And I think there's another school of thought that thinks that race is the most important thing.
Right.
And I think that's also foolish.
Right.
It's somewhere in between. Like, there's this word that I hate, and it's called white privilege. It's a term. There's no doubt that white privilege exists.
Yeah.
However, it is so greatly exaggerated as to its importance that it's nauseating.
Yeah.
People think that, like, just how people don't understand what it's like to be black, I think people don't understand what it's like to be white. They think that things are just like handed to white people, that we have like some secret group that we go up to every week, and we get like a secret handout that no one knows about, or like all of us are trust fund babies or whatever the fuck it is. It's like no, the problems are just as real. There's a list of privilege that you have from being a human being, right?
Right.
You can be born in America.
Right.
You got lucky. You just got the genetic lottery. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. You just got like the lottery, the sperm lottery, right? You got to be born in the most free and prosperous country in the history of the world. You could be tall. You could be good looking.
Right.
You could be smart.
Right.
You could have good physical genetics.
Right.
You could be athletic.
Right.
You could be fucking funny.
Right.
These are all privileges. You can come from a rich family.
Right.
You can be black, white, Spanish, Asian, and each one of those has benefits in different scenarios.
Yeah.
And they all matter to varying degrees.
Right.
And I would think, personally, race is far down the list. It matters, but there are there are many variables ahead of it that weigh much heavier to determine where you're going to end up in life.
Well, I think that in what you just said,
People put it at one and people put it at the end, and that's
I
ridiculous.
think the level of what race does and how it applies, I agree. Depends on who you are. So for some people,
those are the other variables.
right? There's
Diddy's son
Right.
is in a way better spot than the West Virginia trailer park kid.
Right,
that's
right.
white.
Right, but again, for a white person, being good looking, being tall, all those different things you named, race is down here. For a black person, race, then all those other things.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
You think that someone's intelligence?
No. I'm not talking about intelligence. I'm talking about how you're treated and perceived. I'm definitely not talking about.
We're just gonna go underneath the category of already assuming that this person that we're inventing in a lab is black, just so it's a constant here. You think that the fact that he's black matters more than the fact if he's good looking or not?
No, not yes. It matters first. If we had to put it in an order,
it's weighted heavier than good looking. I disagree.
Yeah.
I think that like a fucking gorgeous model looking guy or girl, black guy, like
they're black first, and then everything else falls under.
As far as where he's gonna end up in life?
Well, yeah, we can go there. Yeah.
Really?
I think he's black first.
What about financial? What about
You're black first.
Financial. I don't.
Everything is.
I think we're talking past each other. I don't think.
Okay.
I don't mean like when we're walking past someone on the street, what someone notices first from a third party.
Okay.
I'm saying where your life ends up, the trajectory of your career and success, where it's weighted is where it matters. Like what's gonna like this person is born today, right? It's a black guy in New York City, comes from an affluent family and the Upper East Side. Dad's a lawyer, mom's a doctor, and he's a very good looking kid with good genes, and he goes to a private school in Manhattan, right? His trajectory of where he ends up, if he's successful or not, what if he ends up staying out of trouble, if he makes a good salary, he goes like the fact that he's black means very little in that equation as far as where he's going to end up success-wise. Would you agree with that?
I would say.
Okay. Very little might be.
Okay.
I'll take that back. Very little might be. Yeah, very little might be an overstatement.
Okay.
But it means a lot less to the outcome than the fact that his parents are together, the fact that he's growing up in a good neighborhood, the fact that he's getting a good education, the fact that he's good looking, the fact that he's got good people skills. Those are all more important to his outcome than his race. Where he ends up when he's 30 years old.
I agree with you.
Okay.
But I think that the part that race plays in that equation is larger than you think.
I'm open to that. I agree with
think
that.
it's and large. I will say large in terms of you took all that other stuff. That race piece is almost as important as those other things, because that all works great when you're within the circle that your parents create, that your money create, that your good looks create. You're all fine and dandy until you step outside your circle. When you step outside of that circle,
well, definitely situational, right?
Right. So like,
So
as long as I stay in my circle,
he gets pulled over on a Saturday night. Maybe had a couple of drinks.
if I go to a business meeting outside of my circle,
okay,
I'm the black guy first.
Interesting.
I'm not good looking. I'm not parents are wealthy. I'm not my history and past of being in an affluent neighborhood. I'm not, none of that matters.
But do you think they could also work in your advantage? Situationally, business-wise, education-wise?
Well, yeah, if you're smart though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's all got to be granted that this person's also capable.
Right. But I definitely think it can work in your advantage. I just don't want
so it's situational,
right?
Point.
Because it kind of goes back to what you said about white privilege. People look at white privilege in terms of they focus on the privilege part, and they don't understand that white privilege is really about more of the absence of equality, not that white people are getting something that
they just they're
it's not like
one less intrinsic thing working against them in society.
Exactly. That's what it is.
Understood.
It's not, you're not getting anything. You're not like, it's like, I'm white. Yay. I got no, it's not that. It's just
one less thing working against
right.
you.
It's really the absence of something.
Fair.
And it's like, oh, you know what? You're black though. So now I'm going to think something different. That's all white privilege is.
I think that's fair.
That's it. It's not, because I have this conversation with people all the time, and I'm just like, yes, white privilege exists. No, it's not the thing that people just get.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like but at the same time, it's the absence of things.
It is an advantage in a lot of situations.
Right.
I think that's the key point, though. Like,
right.
is that there's a large population of people who will make it as if it's the be-all, end-all.
Right.
And there's a large population of people that think it doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's definitely neither. It's got to be in the middle.
Right.
Where it is in the middle
Right.
up for debate, and it's situational.
Right.
It's person by person. It's also varies day to day, place to place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's without a doubt a factor.
And I get it all the time, and it like pisses me off. People are like, when I'm talking to my white friends, they're like, oh yeah, you don't have any of those problems because you have money. You're doing well in life. You're doing great. And I'm like, nah.
That's kind of the hard. That's kind of the worst part about it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's like, nah, it doesn't really matter. I give you a perfect example. I went to Starbucks in, I don't know what car it was, in the Chrome car, I think. Went to Starbucks. I shit you not. I'm in Starbucks. I go to this Starbucks like 4 times a week. Okay. I'm in Starbucks. I see this lady. You get people in Starbucks that are always there at a certain time because that's just their hangout.
Yeah.
This lady, older lady, had to be above 70. She comes and shakes my hand. It's like, it's good seeing you here. And I look, and there's $20 in my hand. Like, she's like, could you bring me some weed tomorrow? and I laugh. I'm like, no, I don't sell drugs. She's like, it's okay. You can tell me. I'm hip. I'm like,
I'm hip.
and I'm looking like, no, no, really, I don't sell drugs. She's like, I see you coming in here. It's okay. I just
Okay,
want,
okay.
and I'm like,
Here, okay.
I'm like, oh my, it's like, it's funny, but it's like infuriating. It's so many emotions.
Yeah, so okay, so
I kept her $20.
I want to. Frappuccinos on Betty.
And I didn't bring her no drugs.
So okay, so I want to dive deeper there because this is fascinating, right? So there's layers to that. So there's the immediate emotional reaction to that, which is probably confusing. Like, you know what I mean? It's funny, but at the same time, it's degrading, right? It makes you mad.
Right.
But okay, so I understand how it makes you feel when and how even you can react to her on site. But when you are removed from the situation, you look back on it. How does that make you feel about her? What is your opinion on her? Like, because it doesn't seem like bad intent. It seems like ignorant fucking nonsense, like a ridiculous, like skip so many steps of logic there, and like a gross profiling, right?
Right.
But it almost, and if I'm making it sound like I'm excusing her, apologize, but it almost seems like not bad intent.
Right.
Does it make a difference?
It does.
Okay.
Because and again, I say this loosely, as a logical thinker myself, you know, it's like you just can't do that. You just can't make those types of gross assumptions.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the right thing to do.
Especially you're a grown-ass man.
Right.
It's like you're an 18-year-old kid.
Exactly. So I'm like,
that wouldn't be okay either. But
right.
I'm saying,
but
like,
yeah, and it's just like, you know, it pisses me off. And I'm just like, no. And I'm like, you're older than me. You should have had a little more thought process into what you're doing. And then the fact that you say you see me here, you actually thought about this. You actually probably went home and told your husband, was like, hey, I think the guy sells drugs. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, that kind of goes back to where...
No introduction, nothing. That was the first thing she
said.
said.
That was the first thing she ever said to me.
Wow.
But again...
Totally clueless.
It happens...
It's even how drugs work.
Right. Imagine if that type of thing happened to you weekly.
Yeah. No, I can understand
You know,
how that
my
would...
neighbors, swear to God, I'm a drug dealer.
Still.
Okay, a little bit is my fault, but they started it. Like, literally, I don't go to the HOA meetings because I don't have time for that. Just tell me how much I need to pay and take out my trash. I'm good. My grass is cut. Like, I got a guy. That's it. That's all I do. I don't care about anything else. They have the meetings. I never go. Been there for like 10 years.
And to them, you're the mysterious black guy with 2 Rolls Royces and a Chrome M4.
And friends come over with all their nice cars and stuff like that. And one of my cars says Dr. Aug on the back. Neighbor, I'm out washing a car. Two infractions at once. I'm washing my car. Neighbor jogs.
Can't wash a car?
Neighbor jogs by. She was like, hey, how much you charge to wash my car? First of all, lady, I live here. Okay. No, not washing your car. Oh, I am so sorry. Okay, great. She's like, oh yeah. Now, for whatever reason, felt comfortable talking to me. After that.
And you're just trying to like get the fuck through it.
I'm really trying to just wash my car. She's like, oh yeah, you know, we never see you at the meetings and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't really do meetings. Like, I'm good. And she's like, yeah, we're always trying to figure out what you do. We kind of, you know, we think you're a plastic surgeon. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's funny. Cause, you know, and I was like, but some people thought you were a drug dealer. I'm like, so in my mind, I'm like, damn, you comfortable as fuck.
She said
like,
the fucking quiet part out loud.
Right. And so cause I like jokes, cause I was like, well, why do you think I'm a plastic surgeon? She's like, because your plate says Dr. Aug. So they don't know my name. So they thought it was Dr. Augment in their infinite wisdom of things. So I was like, oh, and then the drug dealer part, she was like, oh, yeah, you know, it's like all the cars. I'm like, oh, well, guess what? Definitely not a doctor. And I laughed and went back to washing my car. So now they think I'm a drug dealer. But I just let it rock. So they really think like when now they treat me different. When they drive by, they like super wave and stuff.
That's fucking hilarious.
But yeah, so I let them rock with that thought because I'm just like, really, y'all gonna come over here and first you think I'm the car wash guy, and then
it's so much of it's got to do with exposure, and even like the times are changing now, right? Like so. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, so I won't get into specifics, but I know people personally who in my short lifetime, I've seen their ignorant views evolve.
Right.
On like, you know, when I was a kid, hearing certain people talk about certain other minorities a certain way and very ignorant and even to the point where like, I'm not afraid to admit this, like as a kid, I had ignorant views. Like, not that I was ever hateful, But like you just don't know.
Because that's what you're taught.
You just don't
And
know.
that's what you're
and
around.
that's what you hear and
Right.
stuff like that. And most of it, and most of the time, even like, and anybody who says any different is a fucking liar. And I'm not afraid to say it. But when you're in middle school, if you're in a white middle school, there's racist jokes being made about everybody.
Right.
Jew jokes, black jokes, Asian jokes, Spanish
Yep.
jokes, about everybody.
Yep.
And no one's fucking innocent because everybody either made them or laughed at
Right.
them. Right. But no one actually hated those people. It was just something stupid and funny to say as a kid, right? As an adult, I'm conscious that not only do I not believe any of those things, but I won't even make jokes like that
Right.
anymore. I won't make racist jokes anymore. I just don't. I refuse to do it just because I feel like I've matured to the point where now it's not even. I can't even think it's funny anymore.
Right.
And I still have some people that I'm around here and there that might make a joke like that. I make a point not to laugh at it,
Right.
even though and those people aren't even hateful people.
Right.
It's just like a stupid fucking joke
Right.
that's so distasteful, and it's almost like it's like from an era past that no
Right.
longer flies anymore.
Right.
But I know those people are good-hearted people, and if they were on the side of the road and some fucking an Asian lady or like what's been going on, they're getting attacked, or like a black person's car was broken down, that same person would stop and give the shirt off their back, risk their own life, or jump the car for that person.
Right.
So I don't take it seriously, but I won't partake in that anymore at this point in my life.
Right.
But it's a lie to say that in the years that I was growing up, in that generation, in 1998 to 2005, that if you were in a white high school, that you didn't partake or hear or laugh at racist jokes, and that you didn't have family members that did the same thing, or friends that did the same thing.
But that goes on both sides. Like, I'm gonna, and you say not throw anybody in the bus, I'm gonna throw my dad in the bus. The views that my dad had when I was a teenager versus the views that my dad has now
Totally different.
on white people, totally different.
But twofold there, right? One, he's evolved as a person,
Right.
But wouldn't you also probably say his views probably were more accurate back then?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
white people were probably more abrasive to him back
Yeah,
then.
word. Right. That's true.
He had a
That's
reason
true.
to be more of that part.
Right,
And the
that's true.
same thing with like people that I knew who was only experienced. So like a lot of people that I knew grew up in Brooklyn and Queens.
Right.
And the neighborhoods were super segregated.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All Italian here, all Spanish here, all black here,
Right.
all Chinese here, all Russian here. And the only interactions that the neighborhoods have are usually bad ones.
Right.
It's usually crime, usually fights, robbings, killings,
Right.
whatever it was, and going in all directions.
Right.
So if your only experience is, hey, when the black guys come over to the Howard Beach, they're stealing cars.
Right.
It's like, fuck those people.
Right.
When those people go into their neighborhood, they're shouting racist slurs.
Right.
Fuck those Italians.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the only interaction
That's
you
it,
had.
yeah.
And it was like almost accepted back then that you guys didn't intermingle.
Right.
So like it's understandable why someone would have that opinion at that time period.
Right.
Not that it's right.
Right.
Not that it's based in fact.
Right.
But through your experience, you had bad experience. That's what it was. And I've seen those same people evolve.
Right.
And like and through like the way culture is beautifully in a lot of ways as ugly as it's got in some ways, a lot of people are intermingled in ways they never were before through social media,
Right.
through just being more accepted for interracial friendships and relationships to happen.
Right.
Like it's more normal now and is less contention, even though the media makes it more on a person to person level, it's
Right.
less contention of having
There's a lot more understanding.
yeah, and I've seen it firsthand that people can change.
Right.
So like, it's like I hate when people dig up some kind of like a comment or a joke
Yeah.
or a tweet from 10 years ago, try to bury the person now.
Right.
Like you know what I mean? Like people's views can evolve, and like you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
When you were a fucking kid, did you make fucking stupid, ignorant jokes?
Hell
If you're
yeah.
gonna tell me no,
I was gonna say,
you're
hell
a
yeah.
fucking liar.
Yeah, I
bro.
was like,
Come
hell
on,
yeah.
like be real.
Right.
Be real about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's something you have to be proud of.
Right.
That's something you can denounce your former viewpoint or lack of taste in a
Right.
joke, but be real about it.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. You made mistakes, and now you're an adult, and you understand why that's not cool.
Right.
And it speaks to a larger point of this whole, like, cancel culture that we have going on now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hate that things become irredeemable. Like, you say something, and like, what's the point of keeping somebody alive if what they've done is marred them for life? Just
Right.
put them to sleep. Put a bullet in their head.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what started off as largely a left side thing, this cancel culture thing, people on the right were for years like crying about cancel culture and,
Right.
and bitching about it. And then Lil Nas X comes out with a shoe, and they cry about it until it gets canceled.
Right.
Do you not realize that's cancel culture?
Right.
Like it always makes sense when you don't like what's being canceled. You're okay
Right.
with it.
That's what I'm saying.
But
When
the
you
whole,
don't,
the
yeah.
whole moral test is when it's you don't like it to still fight for it.
Right.
Like it's like freedom of speech. Like I don't like fucking Nazis. I don't like the black guys in Times Square yell about how Jews and white people are the devil.
Right.
But I'll fight for your right to say whatever ignorant shit it is.
Right.
Because it's not up to me to determine what's okay,
Yeah.
what's hate speech, what's legal, what's not. As long as you're not inciting violence with a direct call or slandering somebody, your speech is protected.
That's why I use the military as an example. It's like in the military, we fight for everyone's rights. Like
Regardless if you agree with them or
even
not.
back in the day, you know, it's like you come back, you know, as a black person in the military, my dad being a military person, you know, you come back and it's like you get all this racism, but yet I'm over here fighting for everybody.
For your freedom.
Right. But you know what? I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to continue to fight for your freedom because you know what? It's the right thing to do. And I'm fighting for you to be as ignorant or crazy or mean or whatever you want to do.
Because that's subjective.
Right.
And what was crazy and what was normal to hate on 50 years ago now will get you kicked out.
Yeah.
Not 50 years ago. If 20 years ago you made fun, even using the word tranny or transvestite,
Right.
and make fun, that was like an outcast group that
Right.
no one protected, and you
Right.
can make fun of them without punishment.
Yep.
Now
You
you just misgender someone, use the wrong pronoun, you
Yeah.
can lose your job.
Yep.
So you see how drastic that was in 20
Yeah.
years? Now imagine things that you think are normal right now to
Right.
say 20 years from now might not be.
Right.
So you better
This
be
is-
careful who you want to fucking crucify right now, because it could be you in 20 years.
It could be you, yeah.
People are way too confident that they're going to be on the right side of the public discourse on every issue forever.
Right.
And just because you agree with, just because you don't like the person getting fucking destroyed right now,
Right.
doesn't mean you should be lobbying for it.
Right.
Because that could be you 5 years from now.
Sounds like you critically thinking like it's not going to work.
I'm
for
a bigot.
people. No, not a bigot. No, it's logical. It's right. You know, but no one wants to think about the future. They want to think about right now.
And easy. What's
And,
easy?
and what's easy, right? And it's like I'm right now. You know, like you got the comedians they're getting plastered for making gay jokes. I'm like, but 20 years ago, everybody was laughing at that. That was the funniest shit ever.
Not even 20 years ago.
Not even, yeah. And it's like now it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I did that. I'm like, no, you're not. You
Canceled
fucking-
for an old joke.
Right. Like, really? A joke? Like, did you see the wrestling routine? Like,
Yeah.
like,
And like, how come some things are protected and some people aren't? Like, people get very uncomfortable, but like, there's a hierarchy of what's being allowed to be made fun of and what not, and it goes within each subcategory. So like,
Yeah.
you can make. I thought it was really funny. I mean, I'm not Christian anymore. I can't say that I'm Christian. I would say I'm agnostic now, right? But I grew up raised Catholic,
right.
and I want to see. You know, familiar with the comedian Mark Maron?
I know what you're talking about, yes.
So Mark Maron, very like dirty, like, you know, comedian. Like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
really
yeah.
good. So he had a whole bit. I was at the Comedy Store in LA, and he did a bit about Jesus, and the bit ended with like Jesus giving a blowjob or something like that. And like, it sounds crazy and disgusting, and it kind of is. But like the way he did it, like the whole thing was funny. He was making fun of the saying that Jesus didn't exist. But like, substitute, and the whole place was laughing. But substitute Jesus with like Muhammad,
Right.
he wouldn't be able to walk outside.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
like,
true.
if we can't make fun of that religion, we can't make fun of like it's got to be, the rules got to be
Right.
overarching. We can't pick and choose. Selective enforcement of rules is the most dangerous thing a society could do.
But
my
isn't
opinion.
that's what we do? Like that's our thing. That's
But
society.
that's
That's
your
society's thing.
That's
It's
you gotta
like
fight though.
right.
When you notice that you're selectively enforcing,
Right.
because it's easy to just to pick based on your preferences, right?
Right.
I don't like Lil Nas X, so fuck him. I don't like Alex Jones, let's get him banned. I don't like Trump, let's get him banned. But like, if my fucking favorite athlete says something that people don't like, I don't want him to get like. Yeah, you have to be.
But
able
that's what
to,
rules
rules aren't rules, not evenly applied.
But that's
They're just
I
weapons.
mean, again, me and you are 100% agreement. But that's not the way the rest of society works. It's like you use the Lil Nas X thing and stuff, but then
his video was gross.
Yeah, it is.
Not
But then-
because it's gay,
No.
because it's like it's vile, and he
no,
has little kids or
yeah,
audience.
But no, now then you got a song called "Wet Ass Pussy." Really? You
they give her like a Grammy for it.
right. You got Kids Choice Awards, and I'm just like, so
That's okay, though.
That's okay. That's not okay. No, neither one of them are fucking okay. But we gonna
Either
select
neither of them are, or both of them are. You can't.
And there you go. That's my point.
And the
Like,
problem. The problem is that what ends up happening is whoever's in power at the moment gets to selectively enforce.
Right.
And that's the whole. So like, as many flaws as our country has, and the founding fathers had, and all that shit. The good thing that they did was those parameters they set were overarching themes that covered everybody, no matter what.
Right.
I mean, obviously there was some holes in that. Right.
There's a couple.
we had to straighten out for
Yeah.
women to get rights, for black to get rights,
Right,
all
right.
kind of stuff. But
Well, they actually wrote it right. They just didn't apply it right.
Exactly.
There
So
you go. I want to give them credit. They actually wrote it pretty fucking awesome.
They were collectively enforcing.
Yeah, but they was like, nah, we wrote that, but we didn't. That's not everybody.
That just proves the point further.
Yeah.
Like, they were selectively enforcing. That's what fucked the rule up.
That's what fucked the
Had
rule
the rule
up.
been applied even from the beginning, we'd be much better off.
Right.
So it's the same thing now. Like, you can't just enforce, crack down on speech for people whose speech you don't like.
Right.
It either falls under the rule or it doesn't.
Right.
And then your preference doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think that's what we got to get back to.
Yeah. Well, but were we ever there? You say get back to.
True. That's what we have to get. That's what we have to get to.
That's what we get to. Okay. Yeah. Because I don't.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I don't think we.
back 100%.
Yeah. I think we need to get there, and I think it'll make things in society so much more calm, tolerable, and easy.
You feel the rules you're playing by.
Right.
You can't say something and not know if that rule's going to apply to you or not.
Right.
So I think that's the only way to do it. And it just, all these people have an agenda, and none of the agenda is for your benefit.
But it goes both ways though. I think that if you tip the scales on either side, so for example, all these people have an agenda that they're trying to get to, and we can probably sum it up as money and power.
Yep.
There's a money and power that people are trying to get to. That's their agenda. But it makes their agenda easy to come about because of the ignorance and laziness of the people.
1000%.
So either A, the agenda changes, which is not money and power, that part's not going to change, but make them work for it. Don't be so ignorant and lazy in consuming your knowledge and your logical thinking and all these things. Make them work for their money and power. That's kind of like the scales, if you will, because right now it's like a lot of money and power because the people are ignorant. And if people just get a little smarter and less lazy, it'll help balance out this money and power piece over here. And in varying categories we discuss, it'll kind of balance itself out.
I agree with that.
I don't know how to fix ignorance and laziness because it's really easy.
You got to try. The only thing I can think of, you're not going to solve it, but the only thing you can try to chip away at it as by planting those seeds that open people's eyes. A lot of times the domino effect. Like, you show somebody something that shifts their perspective on how they view something that they can fundamentally apply elsewhere in their life.
Right.
And it changes everything.
Right.
So it's like, oh, we never thought about it like this. What if I told you, and I show you some evidence that shows you that, okay, maybe for example, the government doesn't have your best interest in mind.
Right.
And this is an example why. They did X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And now I want you to just apply that same pair of glasses that you had on to everything they tell you going forward. Don't take it at face value if they're doing it for your own best interest.
Exactly.
Just think for a second, how can this benefit them money or power-wise?
Right.
But what's on the back end of this deal?
Yeah.
Now, everything they feed you, if you start looking at through that lens, maybe it starts unraveling some of the control they have over your emotions and the way you react to things, the way you just accept things as fact.
Right.
So that's kind of what's part of, that's part of the reason why we do this here, is I like to have intelligent people on who think, and it just kind of get those ideas out. And the more people that hear it, maybe they start looking at things differently, tell somebody. I mean, listen, I'm not saving the fucking world, but we'll put out better ideas.
But you know what? I like the saving the world though. I think, you know what, we and I use that accurately. We are saving the world because this is one person at a time. Regardless of what movement, regardless of what you're doing in life,
superheroes.
It's always we're superheroes. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, I want a whole thing on my chest, but no, if you can save one person, that you're doing your part. And Agreed. It doesn't matter if you save one person over a course of a year, you save a person a day, that thought, because that's how things in history go, it
all starts with a thought,
shared, right? And it's shared along, and that's why people are taught certain things in their life just to grow up to realize, like, maybe that wasn't right because that's all they were taught.
But isn't it fascinating that how many things in your life that you think you know are actually just things that you were told?
Right.
Like, you haven't actually experienced them or thought or proved them to yourself. You just accepted them as fact.
And you didn't question.
How many things in your life? A lot. And that goes for us also, everybody. Yeah. And when you start, like, once that first thing unravels, that first onion, like that layer of the onion, you're like, oh shit, I never even thought about that. Like, something as crude as like the earth being round. Right. I believe the earth is round. I'm not a flat earther.
Right. I was going to say, wait, what?
I've never been into orbit to look and see for myself. I'm taking their word for it. I don't see what the motive is to lie about that. Right. I'm going to go with the evidence. But like, it goes to a lot of things that get into more deeper, complex issues that people think they know, but they were just told,
Right.
like something like climate change,
Right.
right? The climate is changing. Not denying the climate is changing, but like the fact that like a guy that flies in a jet plane around the world is telling you should have a Tesla and that's going to solve anything, when maybe he's just financially benefiting from
Right,
the
right,
policy
right,
and act
right,
for it.
right, right.
And the same guy told me 20 years ago it was warming, but now it's cooling, and
Right.
so we'd be underwater by now, and now we're
Right.
not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so simple. It's like, what are you, a climate denier? Like, okay, it's science. Oh yeah, which scientists did you read up on?
There you go.
You've never read a scientific paper in
Right.
your life. You listened to what the news told you,
Right.
and you repeated it.
And the news said it was a scientist, so you're like,
Okay.
it's scientist.
Oh, the scientists agree. Oh, okay.
It's
Well,
not-
they tell me so.
That sounds good.
95% of scientists agree. Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
And then people
Yeah.
always use that. I go, well, yeah. What's your favorite scientist?
Right. Oh no, you know what my
They
pet
can't
peeve
even
is?
name a
No,
scientist.
when they do the when they say like we took a poll or we did this, and I'm
And
like,
fine print like 1,000 people. In
right.
in
And like, yeah,
Appalachia.
well, majority of the U.S. thinks based on this poll. I'm like, so the poll had 1,000 people in New Mexico. The fuck, like
on a college campus.
on the college campus, right? It's like,
And they
yeah.
frame the question to be leaning one way.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what's about the sample size? Like, I'm like, we did a poll of every state, like 1 million people. Like, okay, that's a poll.
That's
but,
one of those things I pointed out to my father. My father was a big Fox News guy, and he used to point out polls on the screen all the time. And I remember being a kid and look at the screen. I'm like, look at the fine print, because it usually tells you
They
when a
use-
little after and a bottom, and it'll say sample size. Like it'll be tiny.
It'd be
It's like
super tiny.
300 people.
Right.
And it's like, yo, do you like that's like it's like I couldn't even go to a high school
95%,
gym.
95% of people. I'm like, wait, what? It's like 90. So
They didn't ask me.
Right.
Like,
right.
who the fuck did they ask?
Right.
And what kind of people answer a poll?
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
That's gotta be skewed to
That's
begin
why the
with.
sample sizes are always small, because nobody's answering polls.
Who the fuck would?
like, it's great. It sucks, man.
So
Yeah.
one more thing. So I wanted to get something that we disagree on. So
Okay.
I want to have a healthy disagreement. I want to have a situation
Okay.
where maybe we challenge each other's ideas.
Oh man, this is good.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what it is. I feel like the easy, because this isn't really an opinion. This is kind of, this is an opinion, but it's not really on the matter. It's on the outcome. So I want to see if you disagree, and then we can get into the details afterwards.
Okay.
But I think that Officer Chauvin is going to get dismissed in this George Floyd case.
You think he's gonna get dismissed?
Dismissed. Have you been following the trial?
I have.
So my thing is that two things.
Okay.
If the case had been presented
Mhm.
as it is now
Right.
to everybody for the first time, everybody's opinion would be way different on it.
Right.
I saw the video like everybody else saw and was just like, kill this guy now. Like,
Right.
shoot this fucking guy
Right.
in the head. Right now, it's over. The trial is making it not so clear.
Right.
I still think that he acted negligently,
Right.
the cop, and probably contributed to the reason why he died.
Yes.
But I honestly think that if the cop just left George Floyd in the back seat, he would have died anyway.
So your question though,
Two different things.
two different things, because I want to.
Because the reason is that
because
there's only
so-
the proof reasonable
Right.
doubt.
So on the getting dismissed,
Yeah. What do you think's gonna happen?
I
Prediction
actually-
first.
I actually agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Based
And
on
it's gonna be really bad.
it's
the
gonna
reaction.
it's gonna be horribly bad.
Yeah.
So we agree on that. Like,
Yeah, okay.
I think I'm watching and I'm just like, like there's so many things, but
And all you do
yeah,
is convince one juror
Right.
that there's reasonable
Reasonable
doubt.
doubt, right.
People don't understand that's all you
right,
can do.
right. So I agree there. It's I
So by
don't,
a legal standard,
Yeah.
he should get dismissed. Morally, should he walk away?
oh yeah,
I don't think so.
right.
But,
I
like,
agree
if we're
there
talking
too.
about legal standards here, which is what's going on, dude. I mean, it's like because the problem is that then it goes back to the media thing, right? So you only saw that video,
Right.
and now they're showing the other angle,
Right.
And the famous clip of him with the knee on the neck. His knee wasn't even on the neck. It's fucking. When I saw the body cam footage, it was on his shoulder.
Mhm.
So it's like, fuck. It's like, now I got to rethink this whole thing. And it's so much easier just to put that guy in a fuck him, execute him, he's evil
Right.
bucket. And like, even like now everyone's
But
saying,
it's harder to take them out of that bucket.
so it's impossible. Because
Like
no one
it's like everybody's like you're evil.
they,
like
they already figured it out.
yeah.
They
So
don't want to reconsider it.
yeah.
They don't want to look for new evidence.
Mhm.
And if you even bring it up, you're a piece of shit too.
It's
I'm
like
gonna get heat for this.
it's
for
like
now.
Jesus. I'm just saying.
the
His
second-
birthday's in December.
the second moral question is, right? Is it for the better good of society even if he's by law innocent, right? Because they overcharged him is the problem.
Mhm.
You have to prove intent with murder.
Right.
If they went with manslaughter, I can be okay. They can nail this case.
Right.
It's very hard to prove murder in this situation. Like,
Right.
people understand the legal difference. It's
Right.
not what you think. It's not your mayor that's convicted with the highest thing
Right,
possible.
right.
You have to prove it on the
Right.
books. So if they went with manslaughter, they would have a much better chance, right? But for the greater good of society, do we sacrifice this guy? That's the moral question here. Like, obviously, it's wrong on the individual thing, right? Like, let's just say, he undeniably gets proven beyond a reasonable doubt that you can't convict him on murder.
Right.
And because they didn't charge him with manslaughter, he's going to get released. But that's going to cause riots,
Right.
probably other deaths,
Right.
property damage,
Yep.
probably, like I said, other deaths of maybe officers, maybe people in the street. God knows how much civil unrest, increased racial division, increased political division.
Yeah.
Is it for the greater good, right, to just sacrifice this guy? Morally, what's the right way? What's right there?
So it might sound off. So 95% of T says, yup, it's better to sacrifice this guy. But
Big picture, it's hard to argue against it, right?
But that 5%, which I say this is not going to sound right because I would have to lean with the 5%, is if he gets off and you go through the legal system, you got to go with what it says and not do that because that's the system that we stand on. And
those are the rules
that we apply and that we play by. And if the cities are going to burn, then let them burn and let all those bad things happen. But if he gets off, he gets off. Now, I say that purposefully to say 95% of T says yes, but that 5% and my logical being that I am, you got to follow the rules and you got to rock with the consequences of the rules that you follow.
Because I feel like if we isolated this issue, if this was the only thing in a vacuum,
right,
then yeah, you'd say like for the greater good sacrificing, but you can't set a precedent of mob justice.
Exactly.
Rules.
And that's where I say that 5% of me outweighs the 95 and you have to do the right thing.
But there's also something inside me that just doesn't feel okay with this guy walking away not say scot-free because his life is ruined. His life is forever ruined.
Yeah.
Not that it equates to someone losing a family member, right? Like or losing their own life.
Well, I don't think his life is totally ruined because you got those other side of people that are going to totally embrace him.
They're not gonna give him a job. You know what I mean?
I think they would.
Maybe some really extreme people.
Yeah, they're like, and they're like, come on over here, we'll take care of you because they're treating you wrong.
Well, again, it goes to that like.
But to your point, it is. I think to the point it's ruined though.
Just like the huge polarizing thing with people like he did nothing wrong and George Floyd was a drug addict,
right?
Piece of shit. He had one less animal.
Right.
Like, I've heard people say this, one less animal, and I'm just like, bro, like, whoa, chill the fuck out, like. And then you have people that are like, we should just kill this cop. What do we even want? I see people, like a lot of people in the comment. I read the comment sections a lot because I'm just interested in how people are thinking.
I do the same thing.
And like they'll be like, why are we even having a trial? We saw the video. I go,
what?
Like that is the whole legal system.
That's right.
Because things.
And that's why I say the 5% is more important than majority of my feelings. Like. No, we got to follow the rules. Like, because without the rules, then now you're going to your point you said before. Oh, it's all great when you like hang this guy. We don't need a trial, and so your ass is on fucking trial, and you're like, no, hang your ass. Like, no, I need a trial. It's different. It's me. No, everybody gets the same rules.
That's why it's important. It's easy to point out the extremes,
right?
But when it gets into gray area, that's when you're gonna hope that system works.
Exactly.
In the middle.
That's why you got to let it work. And if you want to change the system. Which, we go back to politics. We mentioned it privately. My whole issue with government is they never change how shit works. Like every other industry, every other thing we do has evolved based on technology and communication and all these things. But our government's the only thing that just remains the same no matter fucking what.
For 200 years.
For 200 years. The way they vote, the way they do every fucking thing is the same. They don't change it for whatever reason. There's lots of reasons, but really everything else evolves. But this, and that just blows my mind. I'm like, where's Constitution 2.0? Like, where's the upgrade?
Yeah.
Like, why are we like the current the current H1 bill, the bill that they got going out to with all the infrastructure stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I'm just like,
it's like 1/10 infrastructure, by the way.
Right. And I'm just like, so really? All we had to do is change the law to say, one bill, one thing, and then guess what? solves lots of problems. Instead of putting everything in the same bill, just have each bill only have one single thing in it. Yeah, we're gonna have hundreds of bills, but I get bet what 90% of shit will get done.
That's how they sneak shit in now.
Right.
That's how they sneak shit in.
But I'm like,
It's an infrastructure bill. Why are we giving money to Pakistan for gender studies?
Right.
It's like, huh? And then you have morons defending it. I saw some lady and said she's like healthcare is infrastructure.
No,
paid leave is infrastructure. Like,
no,
no, it's literally not.
No, it's literally not. but you can't be mad at them using the rules to get over. You got to change the rules.
The problem is they're the ones that make the rules.
And there's the circle.
And they have no term limits.
Right.
So they never have to leave.
Right.
That's the craziest thing. Our situation in politics will never change until term limits are enacted. There's no reason why somebody should be a congressperson from the time my grandmother got married to now. Like,
right. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Like Nancy Pelosi's gonna die in the chambers.
Right.
She's gonna die of old age.
Right.
With a gavel in her hand. Like they would just refuse to get the power up.
Right.
And they're all worth tens or hundreds of millions of
Right.
dollars. Never worked a job.
Never worked.
And everyone's like,
Yep.
seems legit.
Yeah.
But they care about you. Don't worry about it.
They
They give you $1,400.
Right.
They must care.
They must care.
And they parroted a couple of things about equality and they care about everybody that's being hurt by the current system. It's all bullshit.
Well, I'm calling it right now on the fresh perspective. I think that government needs a fresh perspective. So T and Jonny are running for government. We're going to be...
Let's go.
Me and you, I think it'll be fucking awesome. And we'll use this video as our first campaign rally virtually.
We'll guarantee zero funding for this video.
We're going to get the Christian vote, the black vote.
Talk about Jesus blowjobs and chicken stop being real. And oh my God. I think George Floyd's killer took it off. We're fucked.
This is how you don't do it.
Platform 2024.
2024. We're going to make America great today.
Party. So before we go,
God.
I want to bring up one thing. I want to plug your newest endeavor, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So your work or something I think is really fucking cool. Basically, it's called The Hookah Company.
Yes.
THC, The Hookah Company. And basically, you're making THC, totally federally compliant and legal, THC infused shisha to be made for hookah smoking products.
Exactly.
And it's fucking amazing. The product, it tastes and smells great. It works great. It's smooth. And it's genius. I've seen a lot of people try to make this product before and fail. So I was very impressed that you pulled it off.
Yes.
And if you want to speak a little bit more on that.
So the key is, which is, I don't have any competitors as of now. Any competition as of now. We infuse shisha, which goes inside of your hookah bowl that you smoke, we do CBD, which is a million companies that do that. But we also do Delta H THC. And that part is that's the legal part. And people don't understand that you can effectively get high off of Delta H THC.
And in my opinion, it's a less anxious high than regular THC.
Yeah, so you're not going to get the mental psychoactive, if you will.
Much less of it, yeah.
Right. But it's legal. I always tell people, right now I'm trying to get into various hookah lounges and bars, and I'm selling in stores. And every time I walk in, they look at me like, no. And then they're like, wait, what? It's legal? Tell me more. And I have to explain to them that it's legal. And they're like, well, why isn't everybody doing it? And I'm like, hey, here I am. And then it works out. But I think that everyone that smokes hookah, that has a hookah at home or goes to hookah lounges, they should definitely try it.
For sure.
Because we've perfected it to where you're at a point where you feel great, but you're functional and can still do whatever you need to do in your life. Then in addition to that, it's not that same high when you smoke hookah where you just have the tobacco. It accentuates it a little bit more. So everybody should try it. It's great. It's legal.
And you can order it online, right?
Yes, so we'll be able to order online in the next 7 days.
Okay.
And we'll make sure we get the website out there.
I'm going to plug, and underneath the video, you'll see a link to not only T's Instagram, but the Hookah Company's Instagram, so you can see the product directly. We'll put the website on there, and in 7 days from this recording, even if listening to this might be already out, you'll be able to buy it directly. Look for it in a smoke shop near you, refer it to a smoke shop near you, refer it to a hookah place near you, and it's a cool-ass product, man. You got to try it. and it's fucking awesome. I'm
Yeah.
very happy you're doing it.
No, I appreciate it. It's fun. It's like it's one of the things about I've kind of found in just being more of a serial entrepreneur, if you will. Do stuff that you like, that you enjoy doing.
It's the secret.
That's it. Just do stuff like I enjoy smoking hookah, so why not? You know?
Monetize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking awesome. I think that's a fucking perfect place to fucking leave it. That was a great episode, great talk.
Yeah.
Again, it was nice to be able to kind of talk about shit that most people right now are kind of hesitant to talk about.
Yeah.
Get different perspectives. I feel like I brought in my perspective a little bit here. I learned a couple of things, and I had a great time.
Same. Yeah. So I think the kind of wrap it up is like when you sit down and you want to watch this. I don't even know how long we've been talking.
Me neither.
But when you sit down and watch this, just understand that we're gonna talk about the Easter Bunny, niggas, Jesus, George Floyd, weed, crypto, and being the best person you can be in your life, and actually having critical thought and cognitive dissonance and thinking about shit, not believing everything you read on TV. Yay, Jesus!
That's it, man. Thank you guys. I will see you guys next week. It's been real. T, thank you, brother.
Thanks, boss.
That was dope.